6:08. And here we go. Welcome, everybody. Okay, flag salute. Mrs. Anderson, would you want to lead us in the flag, please? Would you lead us in the flag salute?
You bet.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The board met in closed session. No action was taken. Adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to bring the adoption of the agenda to the floor for discussion?
So moved.
Use your microphone, Mrs. Anderson. Turn on your microphone.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I'll second. I would like to remove from consent agenda items number 3 and number 15 for separate consideration. Are there any other items to be pulled or to be moved?
Which numbers was that?
3 and 15. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballin. General consent? Okay. Organizational report, CUTA Vanessa Mason. We missed you last month.
Yes, sorry. But I'm here this month.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better.
And it looks amazing. Was it like this last month?
Kind of.
Oh, so it's new to everybody. All right. I would like to make a couple remarks. One is about McClellan High School. For the first time, 11 students from McClellan High School attended prom with CHS students. And so the teachers were so excited for those 11 students that were not excluded from participating in a prom.
That is cool.
And then Oak Hill went to 6th grade science camp, and they used high school seniors as counselors at the science camp. So again, integrating our schools is amazing. Overall, staff is looking forward to the end of the school year with just a handful of days left and all the events that are upcoming. Special education staff, however, is running really low on the fuel meter. They're exhausted as they're working to get testing done for all of the IEPs. They feel like they have millions left to go. I know they're chugging through them all, but I want to give special appreciation to all those special ed staff members that we have in our school district, and know that they're working very hard, extra hours, and I appreciate that special ed department is compensating them for it, but that workload is too much and we need more staff. And I know we're advertising the best we can and there's no solution for it, but it really can't continue on this current workload. So special ed teachers need lots of support. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
CSEA and Aisha Harris.
Whoa, sorry. I'll have to get used to that. Naisha and I spoke, and she did not have a report tonight.
Thank you very much. Presentations and reports. Center High School Leadership Student Presentation. You look so thrilled. We're excited.
Okay, well, I'm short. Good evening, board trustees and Superintendent Lair. I hope that I'm pronouncing that right this time. My name is Kaylee Larson, and as I have said previously stated from the previous board meeting we presented at, I am a senior and I'm also the ASB president at Center High School. Currently, Rebecca Plummer, our vice president, she is currently performing at I believe she's performing at an elderly home, so she's dancing. And then Anessa, she just recently got hired at a new job, and so this is her first full week of work, and she didn't want to call out. So you get me today. As we have reinstated at our last presentation, our purpose is to create inclusive activities and events for all students on campus, work behind the scenes for rallies and events, improve our campus culture, and be role models for Spirit, while also handling the financial business for clubs, organizations, sports, and grade level classes. Currently, we have been continuing our goals that we had mentioned from our December presentation. recently we have had our breaking down the walls, to where we had worked to break down the invisible walls that people believe that they have between them and other cliques or groups on campus. Then we had FBLA, one of our clubs on campus. They did a formal wear drive with North Highlands, the Antelope Library on Antelope. They were collecting formal clothes to help those who may not have been able to spend money on prom dresses. Then we also had seniors recently hosted a thrift night, which was just last night for the community. We allowed small businesses to set up tables in order to showcase and support the student-ran businesses on our campus. Some of those had included jewelry, lashes, and someone was also making bracelets and keychains. The leftover donated clothes that we have are going to be donated to a good charity to give back to the community. We are currently looking at donating to Salvation Army. To work on celebrating diversity in groups, our Dear Asian Youth Club hosted a Lunar New Year festival in February to celebrate the coming of the Year of the Rabbit with games and cultural performances. Currently, we had our very first academic recognition for our first semester grades, and we made sure to include students that may not be in like our AP classes or maybe in honors classes to where they're having straight A's, but also recognizing students who have shown improvement. I believe it was like a 1.0 average bump up that we were recognizing, to where if you had shown improvement from the first semester and from second semester from the previous school year and winter semester this school year, we were giving an award for that. We have also, the relaunching of Black Student Union has become another campus club. They are hosting their first event as an after-school poetry slam, partnering with Book Club this coming Friday. We had also hosted a multicultural night, partnering with our elective fair to showcase some of the cultures on campus. We had a Spanish performance that was really beautiful. Student government is planning a staff versus student tournament night to play games and compete against each other to hopefully involve our staff further. And then in February, student government made Valentines for all to make sure that all students got a Valentine, whether they feel welcome on our campus or not, to let them know that we are thinking of them. And then student government has been branching out a little bit more. We now have what Ms. Bowler likes to call play dates with 0 period advanced drama. So those have been fun. So there's a couple photos. We have us from our little play dates. Then we got a couple photos from the Lunar New Year Festival that Dear Asian Youth had sent over to us, and then those are a couple of photos of the certificates that were handed out for student recognition that Mr. Ferguson signed by hand. Almost like over 1,000 of them. So props to Mr. Ferguson. Then this was a few photos from our Breaking Down the Walls. The quota was, "It's hard to hate someone whose story you know." I personally had really enjoyed this activity, getting to participate in it, because it really felt like I was able to connect with more of the students on campus and realize that even though I may come on campus and feel like no one truly knows me, it's nice to know that there are people on our campus that have gone through the same issues that I have, and understanding that you never truly are alone, no matter how much you may feel like it or feel isolated on campus. And so it was a really wonderful event that we had. Our leader was really cool, and we had a lot of fun. A lot of tears were shed, but it was a really wonderful experience. Our next steps are to continue to find ways to reach out to the community and groups on campus, work on student recognition, strengthen the relationship between student groups on campus, redefine traditions to better fit needs of students on our campus, host new events, big and small, around campus. Any questions?
Practice what I preach. I think breaking down the wall is amazing. It just sounds like inclusion, and that's what we're fighting for.
Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
I know that just today there was student leaders. They recently had a meeting after school today to where they're looking for the next steps and how to improve our campus culture. I have a best friend who is one of the leaders, and they were telling me that had a meeting and they're looking to, even though we're not hosting the event until later on, possibly in not this coming school year, but the following, since they normally do it every other year, but we're still looking for ways to keep progressing whether we have that activity going on or not.
That's important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Still learning to use the mic.
You're all good.
I just want to say, first of all, the idea of it's hard to hate someone whose story you know, I think that's wonderful. I just love seeing all that you guys are doing. You've done some really good work, and I think you have a lot of reason to be proud. And I hope that next year, when we have new student government, that we keep getting updates, because this is a great way for us to be informed about what's going on that we might not otherwise realize. So thank you very much for doing this. I think we all really appreciate it.
Thank you for giving us the time to do this. I'm really glad to be able to feel a better connection with you guys and also better informing you, because this is definitely something that I haven't heard of some student government doing before. I've been in student government since freshman year, and so it's really amazing getting to talk with you guys and feel a better connection with you. And hopefully, I believe that we will be continuing with next year's student government. The ASB leaders will be talking to you still through these meetings. Thanks, Ms. Bowler.
Ms. Bowler says yes.
Anything else?
No. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Proud of you. You did a great job. Committee updates, curriculum, instruction, special education update with Mr. Jordan.
All right. All right, good evening. As promised last month, I'm going to present tonight an exciting new diploma track for our students with IEPs. You're going to get a chance to vote on this next month as an action item, and not just vote, but a chance to show leadership, not just countywide, but statewide, in implementing something the state has been trying to implement, but has not been able to really push through. So tonight, you can look on one of the 800 screens around me. It will be the presentation, but before we start, I want to thank Lauren and Eugene. This is an amazing venue now with all the technology. We had a chance to have a meeting in here the other day. It really is fantastic, so thank you. All right, so this is going to be called the Standard Diploma Pathway 2. Ding. Can you go to the, oh, I get it, because I got to go to the next slide. Sorry about that, I was going old school. So currently, I'm going to just give you a brief history. Currently, right now, we have 3 diploma pathways. Most districts have 1, we have 3. The first is the standard diploma pathway. That's open to all students. The second is what's called a 5-year diploma track. That's open to students with an IEP who come into the high school at 3 or more grade levels behind in reading. So they will take a corrective reading course. They'll still go on a 5-year track. They'll still be able to graduate with the diploma. The third one is a 130 credit state minimum diploma. We put this in 4 or 5 years ago. The board voted it in. They beat the state by about 4 years. The state is now looking to do the same thing. For students with an IEP, it is also, we are the first ones with the this plan for students with an IEP. This is also for foster youth, for our homeless youth, former juvenile court students, children of military, and migrant families. So that's what we currently have as diploma track. Again, the standard diploma is open to all students. At Center High School, it's 260 credits. It can be A through G compliant. I say can be because you have to have a grade of C or higher in all those classes in order to be A through G. And again, A through G allows you to apply for and gain admission into a UC or Cal State system school. It doesn't guarantee you admission, but it's the minimum requirements. And it typically takes 4 years to complete. I'm not going to go through this, but this is what it would look like credit-wise, how that breakdown goes. So this would include the state minimum graduation requirements, which are 130, plus the Center Joint Unified requirements that are on top of that to equal a total of 260. Whoa, went a little too fast. The standard diploma at McClellan High School is very similar, but it is 220 credits. These classes are not A through G compliant. To be A through G, they have to be approved by what's called the portal, the UC portal. This would take 4 to 5 years to complete. Again, it's a standard diploma. And it would look like this. Again, the state minimum is 130, so this is still significantly higher than a state minimum diploma. So our 5-year track, very quickly, again, that's for center high school students who are on an IEP, who come in 3 or more grade levels below in reading. We would start them out in corrective reading instead of English those first 2 years. They could have 5 years or until they turn 22, because that's federal law. They have till they turn 22 and a half in order to graduate. Again, that is a diploma. And I keep saying diploma because I'm going to break down what the difference is and what a diploma does for you as opposed to a certificate of completion. The 130 credit minimum, that basically it gets rid of all electives. It's 3 years of English instead of 4. It's 2 years of math instead of what we do is 3. We have this for students with an IEP. I can tell you I'm on a statewide consortium. We're looking at the new alternative pathways that the state provided. We're the only school, the only district, excuse me, that has this in our board policy. So our board policy is up on that website that everyone else is seeing. And again, this group showed great leadership to bring that in years before the state could get it approved. And you're going to have that same opportunity to do diploma pathway too. Certificate of completion. Certificate of completion is not a diploma. It is for a student that has an IEP. It's determined not by credits, but by the IEP team. It is not considered a high school diploma. That's the other option for students with an IEP. What does this mean? Ding. Uh-oh. Did I use the wrong tone? Ding. I can tell you. So if you have a certificate of completion, it is not considered a high school diploma. It is like a giant roadblock. You cannot get financial aid for college. You're not A through G compliant. You can go to community college, but you can't get that 2-year free financial aid package. The military will not accept it. You can't get admittance to that. You can't check diploma, so you can't get an interview for a job. It really is like a certificate of participation. It really sets up a huge roadblock for kids. We want to eliminate that roadblock and get them on the diploma track. There it is. So you can see up here, as I just said, accepted by the military, diploma, yes. Certificate of completion, no. Accepted by colleges, diploma, yes. Not a 4-year institution for certificate of completion. Eligible for federal financial aid, diploma, yes. Federal aid, certificate of completion, no. Community college, their first 2 years is free. That's the greatest thing ever, but you wouldn't qualify for that. Is accepted by employers, it's going to be very hard to get an interview when you have to mark that you do not have a diploma, because this does not count as a diploma. Ding. Can we go back? Is that okay, Lauren? There we go. Perfect. Thank you. That's teamwork right there. Thank you. Did I go the wrong way? So standard diploma pathway 2, here's what that would look like, and here's what you're going to have a chance to vote on. It's determined by the IEP team. So you must have an IEP to go this diploma track. And again, it leads to a diploma. The IEP team will determine this is the best route for this particular student on a case-by-case basis. All the courses they take will be aligned with state standards. This isn't a different program in terms of they're going to do a whole different thing. It's state standards, just like every other diploma track. The main difference is our core classes. We're talking science, social studies, math. Those may be taught by a student, not a student, that'd be interesting, a teacher with a special ed credential. That way we can get smaller class size. We can get more individualized support by a person who is trained as a special education teacher. These courses are for high school credit. They are not A through G. It is a 4-year program, but remember, students can go until they're age 22 and a half to complete it by federal law. This is for the kid who would typically end up going a certificate of completion route. This gives them an opportunity to get a diploma. It's going to open doors for them. It is still state standards. It's just some of these core courses, one or more, are going to be taught by a teacher that has a special ed credential. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. So here's what the wording is going to be when you get a chance to vote on this next month. As determined by an IEP meeting, a student with a disability may satisfy the requirements for a high school diploma by following the diploma pathway number 2. This pathway allows students to enroll in one or more core courses taught by a special education credentialed teacher. These courses are aligned with the Common Core state standards for each subject area. These courses will count towards a high school diploma, but will not meet A through G admissions requirements. The IEP team must determine which graduation option is the most appropriate for the student, given the options made available by the LEA, which is the school district, as determined by the governing board. So here's what this means. You as the board have the right to come up with an alternative means for graduation, diploma requirements. In this pathway, the only difference is it's going to be taught by a special ed credentialed teacher. Perfectly legal. Number of credits, still 260 at Center High School. We're not cutting back the number of credits. Still 4 years of English, 3 years of math, so on and so forth. It gives us the opportunity, though, to get through the roadblocks of a high school diploma for our students with an IEP. Math, science, sometimes social studies. And by social studies, usually econ, economics.
But the students are not A to G compliant.
These are not, and that's part of what the discussion is going to be, not A through G compliant. Correct. Still high school graduation credit, still a diploma.
What happens when a if they excel in one subject and not the other, can they have special ed for partial and attend regular classes in the other?
Absolutely. And that's why you'll see it says one or more core classes. So if a kid is fantastic in English, you're going to go into an A through G English, A through G science, A through G social studies, but he really struggles or she really struggles in math. Okay, then we'll put you in the math course that is taught by the special ed teacher, smaller class size, more supports. You're going to have aid support in there.
If they just took that one subject that was a special ed course, their diploma in the end is going to end up what?
A diploma, a standard diploma.
Just a regular diploma. Nobody's going to know any different.
Nope. By law, we cannot differentiate on the diploma. A diploma is a diploma is a diploma.
The only difference would be if you were to apply to a UC or a CSU or another, it would limit you because you don't have the A through G requirements. However, this would allow you to get into a community college.
Correct.
Where with the certificate of completion, it's a totally different path. So you'd have that option. Let's say you do great, first 2 years at junior college or community, then you could move on to a CSU or a UC if need be. It's a great, and Mr. Jordan is not passionate about this at all, But this is an opportunity to help our students by still having a higher standard. We're not lowering the standard. We're providing supports to help them achieve it, and it's individualized. So the IEP team is a group of teachers, parents, anyone who helps support that student comes together to create this plan. My plan may look different than Steve's plan, than Nancy's plan, and that's okay because it still gets us to that point. And that's what's really important is we're removing the barriers to allow our kids to be choosing a path that works for them. And that diploma on an application is another. So if they choose to go a career route, which that's wonderful. But if certificate of completion, it could raise questions or, what is this? So I think it's a good opportunity that we continue to look through this and, like Mr. Jordan said, we'll bring it back where we can approve it. And we will lead in the state. And Mr. Jordan sells everyone else as being the forefront of this. It's his work that's bringing us to this point. So we need to give him some kudos for pushing this. He also pushed back in COVID to get some of those other things worked based on the law. So we'll give him a little credit too.
Just a little.
It's all about the teamwork. We have a great team in special ed.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Hey. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. So why have this diploma pathway 2? That's going to be the big question. Why not just have the diploma pathway 1? You can see over 90% of our regular education students earn a diploma at Center High School. Over 90%. Statewide, for years, the diploma rate for kids with an IEP was 62%. 1 out of 3's not getting a diploma. Once we put in, and I went back to 2019-20 before COVID, because that's when we first put in that 130, you can see we were 5 percentage points higher. We're at 73%. But you're still 1 out of 4 without a diploma, with a big wall put up when it comes to employment, military, financial aid, everything else. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. That's what I'm going to offer you here tonight. A diploma opens the doors, again, for a job interview, military, federal financial aid. Oops, keep going the wrong direction. Here we go. And I want to show you have the authority to do this. Through the legislation, California signaled they want to have a diploma pathway for all. In fact, one of the things you're going to see, state law now says that students that take the CAW, that is students with significant intellectual disabilities, they have a diploma track for them. It's going to be in your board policy next month. They can't seem to get it pushed through the Department of Ed. We're going to bypass that altogether. We're going to have our own here, which is perfectly legal because the state education code gives you that authority as a board to do so. A statewide community of practice, this is what I talked about, was developed and worked towards an alternative pathway for students with intellectual disabilities. It's been halted because they ran into a roadblock. Education Code 51225.3 sets the minimum courses for graduation. This code also authorizes all of you on this board to supplement the state minimum standards at the local level. The local level, the state requirement's 130. This is still a 260 credit diploma track. If you read that ed code, it's going to say they want the board to come up with an alternative pathway for a diploma.
So sorry for interrupting.
That's okay.
So the one that was halted, was that the document from California Department of Educode that was written on March 7th, 2023?
Yeah, it actually came into law 2 years ago. It's been going back and forth.
Huh.
So the same education code, again, authorizes you to adopt an alternative means of pupils to complete the prescribed course of study. That's what we're presenting to you tonight. And that's what you'll get to vote on next time. I'm over my 8 minutes. Sorry, Mr. Lair. A diploma builds confidence and it opens doors for students. The certificate of completion closes those doors. It's going to equal opportunity for kids. Let's give them opportunity. That 25, 27% that aren't getting a diploma, let's give them a pathway. You guys already led the change with 130 state. The state is trying to enact that exact same thing 5 years later. This board already voted it in. Let's vote it in again. Let's show them how it's done. What can I do to put you in this car today?
So I do have one mild concern here. We just heard a short time ago about how the special ed department can't keep up with the workload currently, and this would presumably be adding to that workload.
This will not add to the workload. Every kid has to have an annual IEP. That's where this is going to be determined in their IEP. So it's not going to add to that. What it is going to do, it's going to take away, right now our special ed teachers at Center High are teaching a class called Study Hall, which is basically Edgenuity. It's a credit recovery course for regular ed students. We're going to use those periods to teach these classes that we're talking about. So it won't add in that way either. What it is going to do is kids are going to be more successful. So it's going to cut down on the number of IEPs that parents are calling because their kids are not being successful in an A through G traditional route. Parents don't, nor do kids, want to go that certificate of completion route because they understand it doesn't lead to opportunity.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, in my opinion, we have to do absolutely everything possible to make these kids successful and to help them feel that they can have a productive life. So you had my vote way back when you started that whole thing. But especially special ed kids who often don't feel like they're accepted by society and can't go on or can't learn anything. So yeah, I think we should do this, and I think we should do it as quickly as we possibly can. It's the first time in a long time I feel like we're the leaders pushing out there, doing it. So yeah, let's do it.
Excellent. That is one yes vote from Nancy Anderson.
I have a question.
Yes.
And a concern. So
Okay.
How do I make can I make it stand? Nope.
Can-
Hold it. Okay. My finger's tired already. So my question is, from a curriculum perspective, I know that Center Joint Unified has done exceptionally well over the decades that I've been here, and I don't see too much of that I've seen or heard of in other districts, and where students graduate and they, in terms of achievement, they really didn't make the grade. They were just passed. So my concern here is there anything in this process, this program, that you're proposing, where a student could circumvent aspects of the curriculum and basically fly by without achieving the set expectations? Passing the grade, if you will.
No, they still have to pass the classes. The number of credits still 260. The courses they have to take, 4 of English, 2 of science, 3 of math, all exactly the same. The difference is we're allowing them to take that in a special ed teacher's classroom. So instead of having 34 in a class, they're going to have less. A through G curriculum is geared for the kid it's going to go to Berkeley, that's going to go to UCLA, that's going to go to a top tier UC or CSU school. These courses would not be through A through G. So they are still meeting the state standard for a high school diploma, but the rigor isn't going to be at a UC level. Not every kid goes to a UC right out of high school. That's just not the way it works. We have kids that are on an AP track now taking advanced placement classes that take well over 260 credits, have a 4.6 GPA. We have kids that get through with a minimum number of classes that have a 2.0 GPA. They get the exact same diploma. There's no differentiation. The differentiation that everyone sees is in the transcript, not the diploma. But the diploma is what stops kids from getting jobs, getting into the military, getting financial aid. This is going to get them that diploma. Give them the chance. It's not going to guarantee them a perfect future, but it's going to give them an equal playing field and an opportunity.
Okay, thank you. So my second question or concern is, you mentioned several times that we are legally able to do this, even though there's some kickback from Department of Education. Is that my understanding, correct?
So the kickback from the Department of Education, the first one they're trying to get through is for students who are in an independent living skills class. These are kids oftentimes that are nonverbal, have significant intellectual disabilities, not always, but often. They have to take what's called the CAW. It's an alternative assessment. That's where the kickback has come, because originally the California Department of Ed wanted those kids to take what in our case would have been an A through G English, A through G integrated 2 math, so they get their 3rd year, A through G economics. That's just not gonna happen. And that's why they put a temporary hold. Now, 2 weeks ago, CDE came back and said, all right, we're gonna let the districts decide how they align the curriculum. That's their give, whatever you want to call it, their negotiation. So you're going to see that start coming back up. But state law, which you're going to see in that board policy, state law came in 2 years ago. Students that take the CAW have the opportunity to get a diploma. If you wanted, and I don't want to disparage anyone, but the kids we're talking about in this diploma path 2, these are kids that we would typically call like a special day class kid. They struggle in some areas. They're not labeled intellectually disabled or anything like that, but they struggle. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to suggest that you approve the one for the kids that do have intellectual disabilities too, and give them a diploma.
So going back to the same question, so if the board approves this, because I don't know who the final authority here is, and we, at some point, either at the beginning, middle, or end of the first round of kids that graduate with this particular type of diploma, we're not going to be told by any governing body that we didn't have the right to do this and they're not going to approve it, or whatever the case may be. So
The state law allows us to do that. In fact, they encourage us to do it. What they're
Yep.
saying is they don't want to take it on, put it back to the local level. And the ed code and the law says that we do have the ability. What Mr. Jordan's done is moved quicker than some. The state has a hard time moving on these types of things. And so what we're trying to do is get ahead of that in some of this case. But the state can't come back and say, we told you, well, I guess it could come back. I shouldn't say that. But we told you to use this law to authorize this option. And then they're going to come back later and say, no, we can't. No. We would be well within the legal bounds to say, no, wait a minute, we're exercising under this ed code. We're done. Now, if they remove that ed code, then we would have to stop or reevaluate.
And if you look up the ed codes, and I cited them in here, the title is Diploma for All. That's the push from CDE and from the state legislature. And this came from the state legislature, Diploma for All. To be honest, I'm just tired of waiting for CDE and the legislature to get together. This has been going on for 2 years now. They can't get it together. So developed a way to make this a legal way to do what they're trying to do.
So really quick.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan.
No
Appreciate it.
problem.
Along those lines, when he was stressing to us that Ed Code gives us that authority, the reason he was stressing that was because they can't come back and later say, no, you didn't have it, because they passed the Ed Code, which says that we can do this.
Correct.
Sounds good to me. What do you want?
Any more questions? I
No.
want to give you another month to think about it, and we'll come back and we'll vote next time.
Okay.
And I
Awesome.
apologize. I am passionate about this. I think it's the right thing to do for kids.
Hey, I'm
So if I
glad you
come a
did.
little overboard, my apologies.
No worries. Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Thank you for the great presentation.
Next up is my colleague, Mr. Miranda. I took more than 8 minutes.
That's
I'll do
okay.
this next time.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Hi, Mr. Miranda.
Good evening.
Good evening.
He took all my time, so I'm done, right? No, rightfully so. My PowerPoint was not in. So, thank you for having me here this evening. I'm Ryan Miranda, coordinator of Student and Family Support Services Office and the Homeless and Foster Liaison for the school district. I first want to say thank you to the board, both present and past, and to Superintendent Lair and my colleagues behind me for their continued support of the work that we are doing on a daily basis to support our students, homeless, foster, and every student and family in need. I'm often called from other school districts and colleagues saying, how are you doing the work you're doing? How are you getting the buy-in? How are you ensuring success? And I share our best practices and our stories, and I can't do it without the district support. It means a lot. So thank you for that. All right, so Student and Family Support Services, doing our best to support our students both in and out of the classroom. So some of the programs under my umbrella are our McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Program, our foster youth services, providing community and mental health resources and referrals, family and community engagement and workshops, and various program support to our school sites. For this update in particular, I'm going to be focusing on our McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Program this evening. And we also house here at the District Office Annex the district's. It's not a closet. Somebody said that, Ryan, that's not a closet. That's a room. That's like a shopping center. We have our school supply and clothing room, and we also house our food pantry for the district as well. All right, so the McKinney-Vento program is by law trickled down to the state to ensure rights and protections of students who are identified as experiencing homelessness, as identified as McKinney-Vento eligible. Here you see the definition. Most of our students in our district and throughout the state are identified as McKinney-Vento eligible because they are doubled up, sharing the housing of others, be it family or friends, due to financial hardship. And we've heard the word often, couch surfing. Our students and our families are bouncing around. They don't have a permanent fixed residence of their own. So the majority of our families are indeed doubled up living with others. We have a handful of students and families living in hotels, motels on the outskirts along 80. They originally reside in our district and then for whatever reason lose their housing. Again, escaping domestic violence, and so they go to a hotel or motel. And we have had some families who are staying in their car. I had a family about 5 years ago when I first started. They were in and out of their car, staying at a local park. So those are the stories of our families, not only in our district, but throughout the state. All right, so what does the law call for? So one, we have to identify our students. We cannot help, we cannot provide support if we don't know who they are. And so we have an identification process through our housing questionnaire. That's been our best practice for the last 5 years since I've started. We pushed that housing questionnaire out at the beginning of the school year and then at the middle of the school year around January or February, because we know that experiencing homelessness is fluid. You may be in a permanent situation tonight, the next night you may be evicted, living in a hotel, motel. So we do our best to identify so we can provide support. Immediate enrollment, that you're immediately enrolled, you also have the right to a class schedule and a class seat. You have the right to attend, no matter if you have records or not. School stability, we want to make sure that once students are identified as McKinney-Vento eligible, they have the right to stay at their school of origin. So if they're identified at Dudley Elementary and they move across, let's say, to Rancho or North Highlands, they have the right to remain at Dudley Elementary. They have a connection there. We want to do whatever we can to support them to make sure that they're staying at their school of origin. Support for academic success. We put them at the priority top of our list to provide support. Support services, so again, making sure that they're enrolled immediately. Technical support to our school sites. We're in constant collaboration about which students are identified. Red flags, that student just told me that they're sharing the housing of others. Ryan, are they eligible for services? No, actually, they're not on my list. So let's have a conversation how we can get them identified and scheduled for support. Basic needs, clothing, school supplies, hygiene kits, you name it. We want to make sure that they have those basic needs to set them up for success. Individual student support. We have a wonderful mentoring program. My staff members who are student and family support assistants serve in a mentoring role and provide one-on-one student support to select students identified. And that community linkage. We want to make sure that we're getting families in need of such support, whether that's housing resources, mental health resources, access to food. We're getting them that linkage to our community. All right, so here's our McKinney-Vento count. So these are going back to 2021. We identified 271, 344 students, 21-22 school year, and then we are currently sitting at 381 students who have been identified as McKinney-Vento eligible. Again, those are students living with another family in a hotel, motel, in a shelter, in their car. And please keep in mind that when we go through our identification process, yes, we look at students who are actually enrolled in our district, but the state says you can ask those families what other students or non-school age children are living in their household. And we do that so we can tell the federal government, hey, we have this amount of students that are experiencing homelessness. It's a serious problem. And so let's see, we go back to 21-22 school year. There were an additional 58 siblings identified. So 344 plus 58 students on top of that. This school year, we have 381 enrolled with us. That doesn't include the additional 67 siblings, not school age, that were identified. So it's over 400 students residing within our district boundaries who are experiencing some form of homelessness. Statewide, and we know this number is low, over 224,000 students statewide have been identified as experiencing homelessness. And then here's a breakdown of living situations, living types. So as stated earlier, most of our families are doubled up. Again, living with other family members, other friends due to financial hardship, eviction, domestic violence situations, you name it. The situations vary, they do. Unaccompanied youth. So again, unaccompanied youth are those individuals, those students, children, youth, who are not living with their legal guardian. And so we have 28 students identified this school year who are not currently living with their legal guardians. Those students have been either pushed out from their household. Their parents have said, I can't provide for you, you need to go live with grandma. We have a good handful of students. Grandparents are raising them. They've raised their kids, now they're raising their grandkids. Parents cannot provide. So we know that our students, they're bringing a lot with them on the daily. And again, we want to do our best to see them through and provide that support. So services that we've provided, and these are duplicated numbers. Some students come in more than once. So school supplies, clothing, food assistance. If you haven't heard of our food distribution events, we do it here on the monthly. It's 2 years now, our partnership with SAC Food Bank. Over 2,600 students or families have access food from us. That's grocery boxes and fresh produce, and that's monthly. We have 2 distribution events left. Community resources, referrals, and then transportation assistance, student support. So I talked about mentoring. We have 61 students who are receiving mentoring support from my staff members, and that number also includes students from the Center High School who have access to our after-school peer tutoring program as well. 73% of these numbers that have accessed our services are students experiencing homelessness, and so the other 27% are non-identified homeless students who have accessed our services. So while we focus primarily on students experiencing homelessness and foster youth, we really serve all. When there's a need, again, we're going to do our best to provide support. And then last but not least, upcoming events. We have, again, grocery box and fresh produce distribution events, April 26th, so that's next week, and then May 17th, 2:30 to 4. I welcome you to join us in distributing those food boxes and engaging with our families. And then next month is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we have events planned. We have a parenting series workshop, and then a suicide prevention training closing out our school year. And then we're already planning ahead to July. Ms. Pope, back to school resource fair. We're going to call it a back to school bash because it was quite the party last year. Yeah, and we're bringing it back. So July 26th, mark your calendars, 4 to 6 p.m. here at the DO Annex. We're going to be there. 100-degree weather or not, we're going to be there engaging with our families, our students. All 7 school sites will be there, having their tables present to engage with their students. Our district departments will be there. We have a plethora of community agencies that are going to be there as well. It's going to be a fun time. And that concludes my update. Thank you all.
Let me know if you need any volunteers.
Will do. Will do.
Last year, woofed. In regards to the food distribution, are you going to do that throughout the summer? I think you did that last year.
We will have, the food pantry will be accessible.
The food
Yes.
pantry, but
Yes.
not the boxes.
The food pantry holds or houses our boxes as well. So we have leftovers. Food bank will give us extra, and we will have those on hand. And we also get donations from community members, non-perishable items. So we also have that in the food pantry. Yeah, we know that food insecurity is a real deal, and so we want to make sure that we can provide that.
I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you very much for the services you're providing. Some people question why a school district is providing such services, but the reality is students that are dealing with this stuff are going to have a hard time focusing and learning and pursuing the diplomas that we just heard such a passionate presentation about. This can make a big difference, and you're thanking us for our support. I thank you for everything you guys are doing. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? Basic needs. If you're hungry, you're tired, you can't come to school and learn, right? And so, yeah, it's our part to provide that. So thank you. Yeah. That is Thursday, May 11th from 5:30 to 6:45. Because of the topic, the content, that is going to be limited space available. We've adopted a suicide prevention training model called Question, Persuade, Refer. And this is the first time that we've ever rolled this out. We know that mental health continues to be an issue for so many. And so we want to equip our community members, our parents, with the tools and strategies to provide a sense of hope to individuals they come across. And so, yeah, May 11th. Be on the lookout for registration information. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. Anything else?
Well, I'd like to add to Member Bruno and Anderson, thank you very much for what you do. And I've heard of what you have been doing since I've come on board to the board. And you're doing outstanding work. It's very much appreciated. I was somewhat a little surprised during one of my school tours. I was speaking with Superintendent Lair and learned of our unaccompanied students. And you're saying the count right now is 28. And to me, 28 is 28 too many. And so I feel very deeply that, no child should be left to their own way without support. So I, as a board member, and I think any other board member here, if there's anything that you think that we can do, I would like to hear about it to assist these young people.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, the old adage, right? It takes a village, and it truly does. Thank you for acknowledging that. And we know that those temporary caregivers, they're doing their best as well. Again, times they've already raised their kiddos and they're not expecting or anticipating to raise their grandchildren. And we get phone calls, I don't know what to do, I'm at my wit's end, and this is, it's all above my head, and I've done this. And so it really does take a partnership to provide support to that student and also the caregiver as well. So again, thank you for that. I appreciate your time and again, your support of what we do.
Thank you, Mr. Miranda. Thank you very much. Facilities update by Mr. Putnam. Thank you again, Ryan. That was very uplifting. Well, uplifting information, not that it was uplifting.
Good evening, board. As you can tell, little something new each time you come in. We try to, keep it on the
See
exciting
what's
time
new
for you.
today in the boardroom.
That's right. CTE project behind us is moving along. You've seen now what the color scheme is. If you've taken a peek out there and looked at the buildings, the framework for the covered portion in the back of what will be the construction and technology for the actual construction building, you'll see that canopy, the framework has gone up. They're doing some more site work. Concrete is soon to come on that. Shifting gears over to Rex Fortune, we today poured the last pad for the last building. One of the buildings is already completely framed out. So by end of next week, the other building, the exterior will be completely framed out. So we are still anticipating those buildings to be done August for those last two buildings that we came up with. And then we're getting ready for the big push for our HVAC projects coming up at North Country and Center High School. The 500 building at Center and about 90% of the campus at North Country. So met with the contracting team today. So we kind of have our ground rules and they're ready to hit the ground running on Tuesday, the 30th of May. And that's about all that we have right now.
Will the AC be ready and up and running by next school year?
Yes. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Putnam. Okay, moving along, comments from the audience regarding items not on the agenda, and we do have a comment card by Mr. David Barker. If you would like to come up to the podium, please.
Thank you again for the opportunity to come up before you. First, I want to apologize to the board for last time I was here because I didn't understand the process. And you kindly gave me Mr. Grimes's information, and he got in touch with me. And he let me know that the decisions that were made were based on recommendations you guys got. So I was like, oh, okay. And I guess the main thing is that I'm still kind of not understanding how the process worked, but that's okay. That's something else. The only thing I have to say is this. Some incidents occurred while I was at Sutter, okay? I was in the military for a long time. And all my computers and everything are scrutinized because I signed several NDAs when I left the military because I did quite a few things. And someone here at Center said I said things that I didn't say. And now I'm under investigation as all my stuff is getting flagged because of statements that were said that I said, and I didn't say it. And so I just want to apologize to the board for anything that might happen later. Like there might be an IG investigation. I don't know. They've already contacted me. And I've contacted them and said, no, that's not what happened. I didn't say that. But I'm just letting you guys know that this might be coming down the way. You might be getting phone calls from the Department of Justice, Department of Defense. I don't know. But nothing really happened. It was just somebody thought I said something. I didn't say that. And it got reported I did say it. And then everything broke loose, okay? So I just want to take this time to say thank you for letting me know what was going on. Thank you for everything that you already went through with me. And thank you for giving Mr. Grimes his information, okay? Because it was just the individuals gave you information. Those individuals then went on and said it was you guys that did it. I'm like, okay. So that's why I was kind of upset with you. So thank you very much, and thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the update and clarification. Yes. Mrs. Hunt, is there any online?
No.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended, removing items 3 and 15?
So moved.
Thank you.
And I'll second it.
Thank you very much. General consent.
Aye.
Thank you, thank you. In regards to.
Miss Pope, can I interrupt you? Because we did just do two things that I want to mention. So I want to acknowledge that the board just approved the appointment of Mr. Chris Barassi as our next Director of Personnel and Student Services. So welcome, Mr. Barassi. And also, we would like to acknowledge that the board just approved Miss Tracy Sievert as the next principal of North Country Elementary. There she is. I was gonna have her take a bow, but anyway, but I just want to acknowledge that and appreciate the board's trust in us, and I know they'll both do fantastic jobs. So thank you and welcome to your new roles.
Congratulations. Okay, moving on to consent agenda number 3, approved board stipend increase. Do I have a motion to bring it to the floor for discussion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I asked for this item to be brought forward to increase the board stipend by 5%, which is allowed by the board bylaw 9250 and Ed Code 35120. This would increase the monthly amount from $263.94 to $277.14 and would be retroactive to July 1st, 2022. This is in line with the increase received by all other district employees. And to my knowledge, as I spoke to Mr. Lair, we don't think there's ever been a board stipend increase. So this would be the first one. There was a reinstatement in 2016, but no actual increase. I'm going to ask, is there any public comment?
I don't have any online.
Thank you. Is there any board discussion on this? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda item number 3?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. General consent? Awesome. Moving along to consent agenda number 15, approve resolution number 2022/2022-23, resolution to authorize the assurance of services request for proposal. Do I have a motion to bring this to the floor for discussion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Back when we were in the design phase of Rex Fortune, this same resolution came to the board. So I had a question on why is it coming to the board once again, since we've already done this. So if Mr. Lair or even Mr. Putnam, because he's in the room as well, if you could briefly give a breakdown on what leaseback is as opposed to design method of construction, and then also, just reiterate why we brought this back.
So
I thought it was important. I
yeah. So
think the
Mr.
board
Putnam,
should
if you
know.
want to make your way up, I'll lead into you. I'll do the intro, and then you can fill in the gaps. So there's multiple ways public school districts can fund and build buildings such as Rex Fortune, such as the CTE project. The method we've utilized in my recent years, all the way back, I know to Wilson Riles was a leaseback. Essentially, it allows for competitive bidding. We end up leasing the property to, or the facility to, a construction company after an RFP has been out. It allows us to not take, with a regular build project, a direct build, you actually have to take the low bid. This actually allows us to see multiple bids and look at reputation and the work performance of that. This we have, as other people have too. Sometimes we take the low bid, it runs into problems. So this method allows us to do that. We currently have the CTE buildings. That is actually a design
build.
And so it's a different facility mechanism to trigger how we can get the best product. We fluctuate in out each product each facility that we build, we have to have a resolution for that. So we're coming back to kick off that with, in the packet, it allows us to do that model. This is actually going to be for the North Country Modernization Project. And it allows us the first step to say, we want to enter into a leaseback. Attached is the RFP. And then we release the RFP, get bidders for that project, come back to the board with that contract. We end up, there's a lot of benefits, and we could dig deep into the weeds, but that's kind of the general overview, unless Mr. Putnam has something additional.
No, Lauren, do you have me on?
Yeah, Lauren is turning you off. She said that she doesn't want you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, that is correct. So it gives us, because there's even a third option, which hardly anybody ever does, and that's called a piggyback. So there's all different ways to build or modernize schools, and we pick and choose which is the best method for us, time-wise, money-wise, and quality-wise. And so that's why we have the different. And each project you will look at, what is the scope? When it's usually a smaller scope like the CTE buildings, it's more cost-effective to do a design build than when you have the larger projects like doing a whole new school site or a very complex modernization. Then you do a leaseback. And in that, we are pre-qualifying bidders. I signed 27 contractor forms today for people who have become pre-qualified with the district. So we've looked through all their financials. We know that these are sound companies. And then we go through with other processes for being able to choose who we're going to use on that kind of project.
Awesome.
And on that, why we're choosing the leaseback model on modernization, I think why, because as you'll see next month, we'll come back with a plan. It's a very complicated move because it's not one we're going to get done modernization in just the summer. So we're going to have to do some movement of students within the site. And so we're working on a plan with CPM of how we'll bring that back and actually hopefully get some extra facilities on the site with that. So we'll come back with the plan, but this is the first step in that process to get that moving forward.
Perfect.
Obviously, there's a big difference between building a school and putting in HVAC systems. How do you separate those, or do you?
It comes down to really where the scope is and what we have. So with our HVAC program, that was basically just a straight, here's the bids, we opened it up, low bid, got the contract, because it's a very limited scope. When you're getting into a modernization, you're going to deal with anything from site work, new structural work, there's a whole lot of layouts. So there's about 10 different layers in a modernization to where, like with our HVAC project that's going to be coming up this summer, it's one single item. It's just replacing the HVAC systems. So that's what helps dictate when we need to activate the lever of this is a straight bid or this is going to be a lease back that gives us better flexibility to get the best contractor for doing the work.
And you'll see that, Nancy, when we show you the plans for the modernization. It's not just, oh, we're going to fix some air conditioners. It's hard work. It's hard concrete work. It's facilities inside. It's a lot more involved than not just because I couldn't do it, but putting air conditioners on a building. It's much more complicated. The low voltage things will be along there.
Right, but contractors would have a chance then each time to come in and put in their stuff, or is it just a one-time thing?
No. When we have any of these kind of projects, we make announcements out there through the different builders exchanges and everything else. So we advertise for when these happen. And part of this, with us knowing that we're going into a lot of these different ones, that's where we also let them know it is time to get pre-qualified again with the district so you can bid on these public works projects that we're offering.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Putnam? No? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda number 15? Thank you, Carol. There was no public
I'll
comment.
move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. General consent? Thank you. Thank you again, Carol. Moving along to business items. Business item A, logo concept, update and discussion. Mr. Lair? Oh, do you want to bring it to the floor for discussion first?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Laird, would you give an introduction?
Sure. So as the board is aware, and we've been talking, one of the things we took on this year as we began to grow into a new region of our district is looking at some rebranding of our district. And one of the ways we're doing that is addressing website. We're looking at different mechanisms as we go to recruitment fairs and different things. We're trying to make sure we have the brand. What kept coming up is our district logo, which happens to be on the screen right there, is outdated. And one of the things we looked at was how do we modernize it? When we started this process, we were able to get with a graphic designer, look at it with some ideas of how can we keep the rich history that we have, because I think a lot of us are proud of where we've come from, but we want to continue to move forward. And so when we met with a graphic designer, we talked through the whole process and said there's a few elements that we just have to keep with our logo. One would be the bell. You know, if you have any time with this district, you realize the bell is a big portion of our district, and we still have the bell, and you'll see it on graduation if you want to come to graduation. And the C, trying to incorporate the C within that, and then establishing the date at which we established as a district. And so we've narrowed it down to 4 different options, and Lauren is going to just kind of put them up. So one of the things I wanted the board to discuss is if one of these 4s, you 4 are sitting here saying, that's it, we want that one, great. My work would be done. If not, I would suggest that we possibly put it out to our community and see which one resonates with the community, and then we could bring it back in May for a final consideration by the board. What I will tell you is at first look at these, it's funny, you kind of go, oh, I wanted to be knocked out of my chair, but then I looked at our current one, and that doesn't knock me out of my chair either. And so as I started looking at each of these and gotten feedback from different individuals, we have come up with the 4 that are in front of you. 2 of them are very similar. Colors are what they are. Color, we can adjust those. One of the things I think we should probably stick with would be that center blue. I don't know if it's cobalt blue or royal blue. I'll ask Mike Jordan on the colors. Mike will tell me the colors. But so really I see as 3 kind of models. At the end of this, we'll have a nice package of vector files for each of these for clothing. Once these are established, we'll move on to the school sites where we'll end up having them have a similar look. We're not going to take away from what's established. You know, the Oak Hill Otters are still going to be the Oak Hill Otters. They're still going to be green. Center High School will still be Columbia blue and gold. Still going to have the Cougar. But we want to try to get a theme so when someone sees the school site's logo, they're recognizing, wow, that's part of center. So that's where we are. So I would look for some direction from the board. And like I said, if you're like, Scott, we like number 3, done deal, don't bother me again, my life will be easy. If not, I would suggest that we put it out to the community because it is hard. Just like at my house, I do not pick paint colors. I just paint the paint colors because I'll just leave it at that.
I'm in agreement where you keep the center district color blue, the cobalt is what I'll call it, and stay away from, I'm going to say, center high school gold, because that's center high school. So we want to be separate from center, but yet I do like the outline of some sort of yellow/gold, not necessarily yellow.
So more of a, I'm going to impress you all with my poppy color.
Color.
And the other thing is the screen does, I know, distort some of the colors. The colors will get refined, and then we'll actually, in the product, we'll get exactly what those colors are. I guess there's color codes, specific numbers. So that will also be part of it. There'll be vector files, but then also reverse files. So any of these can go on any shirt or any logo that would be done.
I agree with what Dale said, but I like the one that was just up there on that one on the bottom right.
And I'm sorry, let me clarify. So these are kind of a set. There'd be a couple other ones that would follow the same model. So we would have access to all these. Like the bottom left in this idea would be possibly on our website. You know, Miss Hunt and I were talking about which one would we put on our letterheads. So we would have access to all these to kind of do it, but it's kind of a
package?
A package, yeah. And there are other ones that would go with it, but these are kind of the gist of it.
I'm with Nancy. I like the third one, and the first one is my thought.
Well, just to add my 2 cents, I actually strongly disagree with both of you on number 3.
Mr. Bruno, that's the wrong answer. Sorry.
I just feel that the contrast between the yellow and the white around the bell just is insufficient, and I prefer the contrast of the other designs. Of the others, I'd say that number 4 is my least favorite. Numbers 1 and 2 look like the only difference is what shade of blue. So
That's accurate, yeah.
I like 1 and 2 personally, but yeah, that's just my opinion.
So my 2 cents, as Board Member Bruno said, in none of these the bell is gold or poppy, and I've seen the bell before. I forgot what it looks like now. It's been so long, but it is made out of brass, is it not?
Yeah, it's like a bronze
So
painted.
that is a gold-ish color. So none of these represent the bell in a goldish color. So I would like to see something like that myself, but that's just me. And I do like Superintendent Lair's suggestion. I think that's awesome. I think we should put it out to the community and to the schools and to the students and the parents and let them be a part of making history for the district.
Especially since we clearly don't have a consensus on this, I would agree that that's probably the best move.
And one of the things it is, I mean, there's just 4 of you, and you're, I wouldn't say disagreeing, but you're not agreeing on one. So what we can do is we can put these out with a voting mechanism. I'm not going to solicit input necessarily, other than which one would you pick type of thing, and then I can bring that data. Because otherwise, I mean, even in our office with 10 people, we were all over the board. And so what we'll all work with is probably someone to get a survey put out. We'll put it out for a couple weeks. So then when I can bring back in May what the results are, with the idea of we gotta pick one, because we are waiting. And I know it's holding up, like Rex Fortune Elementary one. We want to kind of have it envisioned similar as far as the pattern. So that's Mr. Farrell's probably staring at me right now saying, get him to vote right now. But we would, I think that would be good. And I think to Mr. Ballin, Trustee Ballin's point, it would be nice to hear, we may get a lot of people to vote, we may not, but at least we're putting it out and hearing what people think. And then when the school ones come around, we can also do the same if that's the model that we want to do.
So these are the only 4 we have options of?
These are the ones that we've whittled down to. It's getting to the point where I think we just need to pick. Color-wise, we can mess with those, but
So no gold bell then, huh?
I can always ask. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Unless, we can agree right now of one that we choose, but you want to go.
I don't know if they could adjust the colors or not, because even you were saying that you like the other blue than what was on there.
Oh, I like the blue. I just want to make sure it was the cobalt blue. Like number 1 is cobalt blue,
I believe so.
See, I like the Columbia blue, but
but we're not.
Because
Center High
Columbia is
School.
very similar. It'd be so close to Center High School, and I don't want to overlap on there. So
Yeah,
that blue, but a
that's-
little bit darker, kind of like the sign in the brand new sign in front of the district. That color. So what I can do is ask them to not do the ones with the other colors. Leave that one off, number 2, and just put the 3 out to the community.
okay. And Howard, what I was referring to is if we put that out to the public for designs and consensus on which one, my history that I remember from doing that is that it turns into one huge fight. It just asks for problems.
So the direction I'm hearing, unless I'm sorry.
I was going to say, since numbers 1 and 2 are so similar and we're seeming to lean more towards the color scheme of number 1, would it be possible to try to find an alternate for number 2 that has a gold bell? And so we're still putting 4 designs out there?
I'll ask for sure. I'll ask.
Okie dokie. We got direction. And how long were you going to keep the survey out there? A week?
I gotta make. Well, it has to be made. I won't say I'll make it, but yeah, at least we'll get it out, and I'll try to time it around our email that we send out to all the families too, and then we can have people vote on a Google Doc to Google Surveyor form.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Lair. Business item B, celebrations and recognition of staff and student at board meetings. Do I have a motion to bring it to the floor for discussion?
I'll move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ballin. Trustee Ballin, you brought this forward. Do you want to give us a little introduction?
Trying to get used to holding down this button. In my travels since I began the quest of being on the school board, it came to my attention that some districts set aside a certain amount of time during their board meetings to recognize students, their achievements, and some of the things that they have done or are doing or planning on doing. In other words, engaging the students at the board meetings. We're here as a board, as a governing body, a business body, if you will, but it's for the kids, for the students in our district. And what some districts have adopted is, well, we need to recognize that it's just not all business. We need to recognize our students and what they're doing, what they're achieving, and recognizing that. So my thoughts were, what can we do? How can we do it? I know that students come in, and different groups of students come in and give presentations, such as earlier this evening. And I think that's awesome, because that's what I like to hear. I like to know what's going on in our schools. And I think as this is a public forum and probably the biggest public forum for this district, that we should engage our students as to what they're doing and what they're achieving. And so I'm proposing that we develop something that our students can bring to this board and present to this board and to the district and to the community of what they're doing or what they're trying to achieve or what they've accomplished.
May
Do we have any public comment?
I have none online.
Okay. Then board discussion. Go ahead, Mrs. Anderson.
we used to, Mr. Bellin, we used to have a second meeting of the month that was entirely for recognition of community members and school students and staff. So I think it would be wonderful to go forward with that, but we may need to add some time either to our regular meeting or a second meeting, depending on how involved you want to get. We did run into some issues with it, and I think Scott would probably be able to enlighten us a little more than my old memory, but it's something that I think that we should do more of than what we do, and more recognition of our teachers. That was something that we didn't do a whole lot of, but I think we should. They deserve to be recognized for the jobs that they do, over and above their everyday jobs.
My thoughts on this, it's kind of come out of other meetings that I work for a different school district, and they devote time in pretty much every board meeting to honoring people, but then their board meetings will frequently go past midnight. If we were in such a situation, I would view that as problematic. However, we're in a situation where we're often done early. And I think that there's a lot of merit to recognizing the accomplishments of students and staff. In fact, I'd go beyond just the teachers that Trustee Anderson mentioned, and just staff in general, because sometimes it's good to acknowledge that technology had this breakthrough or stopped a cyber attack or something, or counselors making a difference in students' lives. All staff of this district at some point or another are doing something that's just amazing in their job. And I also think that, ultimately we're here because of the students. And so when we hear about things like students from McClellan going to the prom, or hearing about the student government acknowledging academic growth in students, I think it's good for us to hear that, because it reminds us that this is what we're here for. And so I think that this, finding a way to work this in reasonably, would be a very beneficial thing.
I'm in agreement with all of you. I like the staff idea to include that. I also like the idea that, not like the idea, but agree with the comment you made about extending the board meetings, because everybody works here, and I really don't want anybody here past 8 if we can help it. In the past, we used to do a May recognition day, and it would be at Center High School Theater. And I think Mr. Lair has been working on that. Once the theater is complete, maybe this is what we could do. Is that correct? At the
So
theater?
one of the things, since we haven't done it since COVID, one of the things I've been rolling around since it's brought up last time was, how could we do a little bit each meeting? And one of the things might be a standing portion of the meeting, just like we have reports, presentations, work with the schools. And the other thing we've done in the past, I think the hard part is we took a pause a lot of this because of the COVID. But we've even acknowledged some of our parents who have been big contributors, and once we awarded them a certificate, they ended up getting on the board. So you got to watch out if we give you an honor. but it highlights and celebrates, and so I think we can do. I think this is a good kind of refresh of how can we do that. And so what I would walk away from is acknowledging we don't want meetings to go long, but if we ever get to that point, and we could always look at, do we need a second meeting? There's going to be a time where our district will need a second meeting in each month, but I think we could I don't want to say squeeze in, but we can acknowledge our community better at each meeting and probably not go till midnight. Next month, one of the adaptions that we're doing is we would always honor our retirees at that special May meeting. We'll be bringing our retirees that want to be honored. They'll be at this meeting in May. And so there's always things like when, as we've talked through this, I think after Trustee Ballin brought it up, like our FBLA students, I don't know if they get recognition at the school site or not. I know we get kudos, but it would be nice for us to recognize the students who accomplish something and honor the staff that gives up their, they're going to be down there 3 days with them, you just approved. So I think there's a lot we can do to honor and celebrate that goes above and beyond what the school sites are already honoring and celebrating. And I know I could probably talk to each of our administrators, and there's tons of things. So we would have no problem honoring it. And it is a good thing. It's bragging about our district, and not just in this forum, but on our social media. We're looking at with our teacher and classifieds a year. How are we going to routinely recognize the contributions? Not just, okay, one day, but how do we keep doing that? So with the comments and conversations I'm hearing today, I'm happy to go back, put something on and see how we can do. May's already covered for me because I can bring our retirees. And then we can look at each of the meetings, June and going forward. June's hard because people aren't at work and bringing them back, but maybe we get a cycle of just having a placeholder. And if we do have something, great. And if for some reason we don't, there's no reason we couldn't remove it off the agenda.
Now that we don't have the Antelope News, we need to get in the habit of submitting to the neighbors section of the Sacramento Bee, because we need to get our.
Is there a neighbors section anymore?
I assume. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I haven't seen the newspaper in quite a while. But one of the things I think, I agree with you, one of the things, and we're working hard, is even with that social media present, the website thing, just getting things out there. And we have some additional help that we're tapping into that we'll start to get that out. Agree.
We've never been good at patting ourselves on the back, and we deserve to be heard out there and seen out there because we do so much for these kids that nobody knows about.
So superintendent said, took many of my words out of my mouth but the one word he said was routine. We meet 11 times a year, right? Basically. And in my conversations with people from other districts, and as well as looking what I saw online, the 15-minute mark seems to be the magic number. Setting aside 15 minutes at each meeting for this, I think is the least that we can do.
Mr. Bruno.
So along those lines, I think if we were doing a 15-minute thing, that we could accommodate that with our current agenda length. So I think that'd be good. Another thing is it would be another way to encourage people to show up for meetings, if they or their family members are being honored. And that might get someone to engage with the board more, and we might start getting more feedback, which, I love getting feedback. And one other little tidbit I'd like to say on this, though, is I would personally prefer putting it near the top of the agenda, because especially if we had an agenda that runs longer and students that have to be at school the next day or something, it's nice to give them the opportunity to leave if they need to.
Agreed.
Yeah, and Mr. Bruno, my thought would be is right after the adoption of the agenda, even before org reports, that we would honor, celebrate. If people want to stay, great. But that way we're not moving it till the very end and holding people captive to get their acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm. So to be clear, it's to recognize, not to perform. Right? We don't want performance, we just want recognition of staff and
To
students and parents.
celebrate successes throughout. I agree.
Okay, so to clarify, we are going to go forward each month and recognize individuals until the Center High School Theater is finished, and then we will continue with the May Recognition Day?
I would suggest if we do the 12, our problem with the May recognition when we all went there, we were giving folks awards for things they'd already received at their school sites. And so at this point, I would try to do one for every meeting and then see if we want to go that route and have a special one, we could. But it might satisfy what we're trying to get at. I mean,
Fair enough? Fair enough, okay. Any other discussion?
One last point on this. The other thing is we can try it, and if it's not working, we can always change it later.
Correct. Okay, moving on to business item C, naming of new career technical education, CTE facility. Do I have a motion to bring it to the floor for discussion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Nancy.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballin. Since we talked in length last month about this topic, I don't think there's going to be much discussion, but Mr. Ballin, since you brought it forward, do you want to speak a little bit on it?
Forgot to hold it down. Superintendent Lair, is that language that was developed, is that in our packet? Okay.
there was backup material submitted as to why individuals were being recommended, or an individual was being recommended.
See. What? So, I'll leave it up to the rest of the board. Do we, this was prepared by, Member Anderson. Do we want to read this or no?
Yes.
What?
That was read last month out loud. Do we want to read it again?
Oh,
What might be helpful is if there's an idea of what we want to name, or what the board wants to name, start with that. And then I know the backup material supports an individual that you would want it to be named after or are proposing. So I know Trustee Ballin, you and I have talked a little bit about what you envisioned with this. So it might start with that as the discussion. I think if the individual, which I know is the same individual that was discussed last time, you might be able to have that. And then in the backup material supports why you would be making that recommendation again. So that might be the first step, is what are we thinking, and then have that direction.
So, in reference to the conversation that I had, that Superintendent Lair just mentioned, he made, Superintendent Lair did, a suggestion that I think is perfect. And since we already brought up the name, we're speaking about Mr. Ray Bender, a longtime board member who served this community for, I believe, well over 20 years. And in my discussion with Superintendent Lair, rather than naming a building, because he was about vocation, about things that students can learn that could take them somewhere after school, should they choose not to go to college or were unable to. And so the two buildings represent two types of CTE areas, I guess you would call them. One more technical, one more hands-on type of dealing with wood and mechanics and such and the like. So in my discussion with Superintendent Lair, he made the suggestion, well, why don't we call this a center? Because there is space for, there's plan, my understanding, a potential plan for a third building, and there is actually room in the area for another building or two, or maybe more. So the idea was to call this a center the Ray Bender Career Technical Education Center, and that would encompass the area and the buildings of which it resides in, and that a plaque would be placed in there's my understanding there's going to be a walkway that will be going into the center, and we can place that plaque in some manner at the entrance to this area, acknowledging Mr. Bender and all he has done for this district in years past.
Is there any public comment on this item?
I have none online.
Thank you, Carol. Is there any board discussion? Trustee Anderson?
I'd like to read this out loud if there isn't any other comment.
You read it last month, but,
No, this is different.
oh, is it the same? Okay.
Anybody else have comments? Okay. It is being proposed that the new Information and Technologies Building be named in honor of past board member Raymond Bender for the following reasons. He dedicated his life to Center, and we will not forget all that he did for the students of Center and the children of Antelope. Mr. Ray Bender served the Center School District and the community of Antelope for over 20 years as a trustee for Center Joint Unified School District. He provided leadership for staff and students in many ways. During that time, he served 4 successful terms as president. He was an inspiration to many in our community. From the very beginning, Mr. Bender made technology one of his main interests as a board member. He served as the board member who kept close tabs on technology and schools and made sure that Center was ready for its students to be prepared for the world they would face upon graduation. He not only championed its use in the classroom by teachers, but he also emphasized the staff learn how to use it. He knew that in order to compete, our entire district would have to be on board with this technology. Mr. Bender always fought hard for vocational education. He knew not every child could or would pursue a college career. Regardless of their educational status, they must be prepared for their future, whatever that future may hold for them. He helped establish apprenticeship programs, fought for reading coaches, the MCA Academy, Cisco, and many more. He felt very strongly that every child should be reading at grade level by 3rd grade. He strongly supported programs that supported student health and wellness. He devoted significant amounts of time toward the continuing development and achievements of Center Joint Unified School District. Mr. Bender was committed to the long-term financial well-being of Center Joint Union School District. He worked hard to get bond funding approved and optimize the use of voter-approved bond funding. He insisted we keep a 6% savings account for emergency use. It was that practice that saved us from huge cutbacks during the budget crisis when other districts were cutting back teachers and support staff. Carefully weighing many factors when making difficult budgetary decisions and supporting efforts to wisely use human and financial resources of Center Joint Union School District. Mr. Bender oversaw the opening of 3 new schools and the establishment of 2 charter schools. Mr. Bender represented Center Joint Union School District in meetings with members of Placer County and Sacramento County, supervisors, county school board members, state organizations, and U.S. congressional members to protect the district interests and acquire new resources. Mr. Bender faithfully ran our snack bar for many years, making such needed funds for all school student sports programs. He not only worked it during game time, but spent much of his free time shopping, stocking, and cleaning the snack bar. For all these reasons and many more, we wish to honor the memory of Mr. Bender and never forget the contribution he made to the staff, students, and community of Center Joint Unified School District.
Are you done? Mr. Bruno, do you have any discussion?
Well, my stance on this kind of remains constant. I generally speaking, don't like the practice of naming things after people because that can lead to complications down the line. That's nothing against Mr. Bender. It's just my general principle, and I do notice that we kind of keep falling back into that pattern. So I'm going to ask that moving forward, we try to find other options when we need to name things. But you know, unfortunately for me, I didn't get a chance to know Mr. Bender, but I can see an argument for naming this after him.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve business item C?
So moved.
What is the motion?
Second.
We need a motion.
Howard, why don't you state the name that you brought forward earlier?
All right, so the motion that the name be the Ray Bender Career Technical Education Center.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let's do roll call vote. Trustee Bruno.
I'll vote aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Bowen.
Aye.
And Chair votes aye. Congratulations. Okay, business item D. The moment everybody's been waiting for. Governing Board vacancy candidate interviews and resolution number 21/22-23, appointment of provisional board member. Do I have a motion to bring this to the floor for discussion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item?
I have none online.
And is there any individuals here that okay, I see none. First of all, I'd like to introduce the candidates. They are here. Ms. Adriana Salmons, would you like to stand up? Thank you. And Ms. Kelly Kelly, who is in back. We will proceed with the interviewing portion of the meeting right now, but please note that the candidate interview must be conducted in public during our regular business meeting. A majority of the vote will be used to appoint the candidate at the end of tonight's proceedings. During the interview, each candidate will be asked a total of 9 questions. To ensure fairness, the order of the questions that are asked will be rotated, as well as the board member who asks the questions. So right now, we will start the interview process. Okay, so I will start with the questions. And we'll start with Ms. Salmons.
And one little, while you're getting your paperwork, what I might suggest is, I see Miss Kelly standing, Miss Salmons, and then what will happen is they're gonna take turns asking questions. So if you guys wanna be in the front row, you can kind of take turns. So I think Miss Salmons is up, who's up first? Miss Salmons? Okay, so you're up first, sorry, yeah, you're, and then, and Kelly, you're right there on deck, so, okay, thank you.
Hi.
You guys see me? Hi.
So, Ms. Salmons, please tell us about yourself.
So, again, my name is Adriana Salmons, and I have lived in Antelope with my husband, Ainsley, for 12 years now. I am a mom. I have 5 beautiful children, 2 bio boys and 3 bonus children, all ranging from ages 22 all the way down to 7. I also am a caregiver for my 2 siblings, and I took that on after my mother passed away in 2013, so I do care for them as well. So just my nurturing side is just 100% there. I love caring for people and just seeing the best outcome. So, and I'm very bubbly.
Thank you very much. Why do you believe you should be selected to serve on this governing board, and what do you believe may differentiate you from other candidates seeking the appointments?
Well, first and foremost, I'm very passionate about anything that I put my mind to. And my background is early childhood education. I am still continuing to go. I started going to school again. My husband graduated recently, went back to college, and really encouraged me to go back and finish my degree. But even with me stepping away from school to raise my family and care for my siblings, my passion has never stopped. I'm very active within my community, even outside of the kids at the school. I just love seeing people succeed, especially our children. I know that our children are our future, and I know that we have to support them and encourage them and help them thrive in any avenue that they take. And that takes us as a village to really support them. And I wholeheartedly believe that. So I am active wherever I can. And so that's why sometimes I am probably at Oak Hill Elementary School more than I was than I'm home. And I'm okay with that. And I really look forward to making a difference in not only Oak Hill, but all of Center, and getting to know the different faculty at the other sites as well. Something that I think differentiates me, and this is not to upset anyone at all, but if you guys look at Center Unified as a whole, we are a big melting pot, okay, of everyone, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, age, everything, different lifestyles and upbringing in history. So when we look at our board, I think our students, we want them to be more involved, feel more welcome. I think that our board should represent a melting pot. And so right now, I don't know if the students would all feel that they are seeing someone that maybe represents them in just feeling welcome, seeing the melting pot that our district is. So I think that that would be something that does set aside, that maybe I have different life experiences or different things that I might be able to bring to the table that might be a different viewpoints.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ms. Kelly? Hi there.
Tough act to follow.
I will ask you the same question. Please tell us about yourself.
Okay, I am Kelly Kelly, and I also have lived in this community for a very long time. I don't know, Jamie was graduated in 2010 and she started in 5th grade, so however many years that is, a long time, 20-some years. And I've been on the board for about 12 years, 10 years, excuse me. And gosh, she took all my words. Passion. I mean, I have a lot of passion for education, for equity. My day job is at the Department of Public Health, and our office is completely focused on equitable outcomes, addressing disparities related to health. We do have, a schools committee that I often sit in on that focuses on health in the schools. And so I bring an interesting perspective from that, but also I just really care about this job. I mean, I think this is the first time I've ever really been nervous about, whether or not I win or anything. And I think it's because I'm completely vested. I love this district. I love being able to contribute. It's something that I am good at, being able to review the materials. Maybe I don't remember people's names and faces very well, but what I do excel at is really absorbing different people's opinions and perspectives and just taking a very objective view to things. So that's who I am.
Thank you,
Mom.
Kelly. Mom.
Yep, I'm a mom.
And how do you believe you should be selected? Well, excuse me, let me start over. Why do you believe you should be selected to serve on this governing board, and what do you believe may differentiate you from other candidates seeking the appointment?
So I did already kind of touch on some of this. I've been on the board for 10 years, which I know there's a lot of conversation about, shorter terms in government in general. However, I think that in school districts that institutional knowledge that's carried through is really important, understanding where we've been, the things that we've addressed in the past, and where we're going. So I think that gives me a really good perspective on the business of the board. In addition to that, I've worked in a school district for 11 years. I worked in both in 3 different areas. I worked in the maintenance and operations, so I have a really good perspective on facilities. I do know what a design build is. I do know what a design bid build is, and a lease back. I've worked with all of those, and deferred maintenance and all of that stuff. I worked in the accounting office, and so again, a really interesting perspective on the budget, on how things are managed in a school district. And then my 3rd placement was with the student services, so I had the privilege of working with students who were struggling with either attendance issues or home health or expulsions, a lot of interesting laws and regulations and things that had to be followed. And so I have that perspective as well. And then, of course, the years that I spent on the board have really trained me well on a lot of the facility building and the bond stuff and things like that. I needed bonds for dummies when we first started, took that, and now I do have a better understanding. So, I mean, I think that my experience speaks for itself. I did serve as president during 2021, which we all know was a lovely year for this board and for this district and for this world. So I managed to get through that without completely getting everyone to hate me. So I think that was a success. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kelly. Next up would be Mr. Ballin.
I think you'll stay there, Miss Kelly. It's going to rotate, so it's, yeah,
Oh,
so
you're
you'll
taking
get the first
turns.
one.
Oh,
Rotate.
I'm so sorry.
So if you see me looking down, I'm not ignoring you, I'm taking notes.
You got
So, thank you, Kelly, for being here this evening. So my question is, what do you feel is the best way to address differences of opinion on the board or between the board and the administration?
That's a great question. And I've been through a lot of training with the School Board Association, the governance sessions, and it's very clear that we are here to represent different aspects of the community. We're here to express different opinions. We're here to listen to the community and use our judgment, and that is done in a respectful manner. We are we're 20% of a deciding body. And once a decision is made, we stand by that decision as a whole. We should never be 5-0 on every vote. That just shouldn't be the way that it is, because we're all here to represent different parts of the community. But we should also never be disparaging our other fellow board members for their opinions. Great.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, Ms. Salmons. And thank you for being here this night, tonight.
You.
So the question is, what do you feel is the best way to address differences of opinion on the board or between the board and the administration?
So I love this question because I think communication is key in anything that we do in life. But we always say, we have to listen. But I think there's a difference between listening, hearing, and active listening. So whenever there's going to be difference of opinions, we have to actively listen and then respectfully respond. And so I think with this is we have to understand that there's going to be things that we just don't agree on. And that could be, like Kelly said, everyone could disagree. Everybody's going to have different opinions. But how do we realize and have an open mind that we are always going to have some sort of compromise? But I think if we're always having our hearts and our minds in the best, looking for the best outcome for the students, the families, faculty, and everyone, then I think we will trust each other as a board to communicate that well and then come up with the best decision. So as long as we keep actively listening and respectively responding and trusting our board members as a team, that we will always be able to come up with the best outcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Oh, I forgot.
Sorry.
Maybe round 3 I'll get this.
I apologize, I didn't realize I'm reading question 3. As a trustee, what do you see as your primary purpose or primary role? How would you fulfill that role?
Primary purpose and primary role is making the best decisions that we can for our district as a whole, keeping every single person in mind. But I think our job here is bringing community. I think it is holding us all together, reminding us why we're here, reminding us why what we're doing, what the students need. So I think every time that we show up here, if I'm elected on the board, or even in the audience, is that my job, as whether it be a community member or on the board, a family member, a parent, is that we are holding center together as a family, as a unit, as a strong community. So any decisions that are made, we're moving forward with our best foot forward in those decisions. All done?
Okay, Ms. Kelly, same question to you.
Will you?
As a trustee, what do you see as your primary purpose or primary role? How would you fulfill that role?
So, as a board trustee, we are a deciding body for policies, procedures. We are not the managers of the district. We don't go in and manage the school sites. We don't go in and interfere in any sort of personnel issues or anything going on at the site level. Being aware of those and hearing, being observant of those things is good. But as a board member, we're really here to look at policy. We're here to look at policy and procedures and set a pathway for the rest of the district. We also have one employee, that is the superintendent, and as a board, we supervise him together. So our role is really just to talk about policies and making sure that, we're fiscally sound, making sure that our LCAP is done well, that, all of the things that the sites are doing, we are reviewing those and just, celebrating them, but also ensuring that we are going in the right direction, in the direction that the community wants us to go.
It's still your turn for the next question.
Sorry, guys.
Mrs. Anderson, it's your turn.
So nerve-wracking.
Problem. As a board member, do you believe all graduating students should go to college upon graduation? Why or why not?
No. No, that's a simple answer. I think anyone who wants to go to college and is eligible to go to college and has a pathway to go to college we should be supporting that. We should be encouraging their A to G completion and making sure that they're signed up for success, right? They're aligned with a successful pathway. But we all know that not everybody wants to or needs to go to college. Maybe they're going to go to a career tech school, or maybe they're going to become a store owner or take over their family business, or do any number of a million other things. And so from the beginning, that's been really one of my big passions, is supporting career tech. We have amazing career tech programs here, and I'm always listening for more, for pathways. Currently, I'm pushing it at work that we need to create pathways for people that want to go into public health. Now, that is a college pathway probably eventually, but just, keeping your eyes and ears open for opportunities where we can bring in some career tech is definitely a passion of mine, and I've been doing that since before I started. So I think probably my first exposure to this school board was when my daughter was in elementary school, and there was a budget oops. And so, I got up and I spoke, and I was like, please don't take away the passion for what people come to school for. People are not necessarily passionate about writing essays or learning about the Civil War, but they might be passionate about, geometry or construction and geometry and construction, or they might be passionate about the pharma sessions, or they might be passionate about any number of the different programs that we offer, MCA. So music, dance, art, drama, all of that stuff, that's what brings kids to school, because that's where their passion is. And if they have that passion, they're going to carry that over into their curricular education as well.
As a board member, do you believe all graduating students should go to college upon graduation? Why or why not?
No. So college, is it great? Absolutely. Is it for everyone? No. And the reason I say that is because myself, I did start going to college. My path did change. I did have to make some adjustments. And then I stepped into entrepreneurship. Did I have any schooling in that originally? No. But has it helped me take care of my family? Am I passionate about it? Am I fulfilled in it? Am I teaching my son, who is now 8 years old, how to run a business? He's had a business since he was 6. He's almost 9, and he loves it. So I think when we are, as a whole, teaching our children about furthering their education, that education doesn't just come from a book. It can come from experience. And a lot of times our best people, when we put them in positions, are from their life experiences, are from their passions. So I think, yes, like, we believe if there are students that are like, I can't wait, I'm gonna apply at, this college and I'm gonna go, we encourage them, we push them, we give them all the tools that they need. Our counselors are there. But I think we also need to be prepared to ask those students and listen to the other students that say, I don't know if I wanna go to college, I'm terrified, I don't wanna go. Or I want to be a mechanic, or I want to do this. Now, how do we step in and support them and make them feel just as prepared when they leave school? So I think we just need to continue to remember that every student is different, every student is unique, and we just need to open up the doors of success for them, give them the different paths, and talk to them. Encourage them that it's okay to have a different view than maybe, your family's gone to college for the past 15 years, 15, or all these different generations. So how do we prepare them to say it's okay to have a different path? But I think when we say you only have to go to college, we are now setting them up for failure because we're not supporting them in what they really might want to do, or helping them and encouraging them to find what they're passionate about. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can stay there.
Oh, yes. I didn't, darn it.
Okay, so I'm next.
Yes.
So please explain what your budget priorities would be if you were on the board.
So budgeting is very important. No, absolutely. So this is an area that I am open and willing to 100% continue to learn about. But there was something that, and please correct me if I'm not answering it correctly, but something that did come up at the last meeting was then talked about again today. And something that I was very concerned about was the special education department. As I stated, I have 2 siblings who are now adults. They're special needs adults. And it breaks my heart that they went through the same amount of schooling that I did, and worked really hard. My brother never missed a day of school. And he actually got an award for not missing one day in all 12 years. And he had to get a certificate of completion. And so now, me being his caregiver, him asking me, can I go get a job? Please forgive me if I get emotional. He's older than me, he's my older brother, and I have to help him do applications over and over, and he can't get a call back. So it breaks my heart that he is so passionate, and he's like, well, I was a janitor, in school, and that was beautiful that the school did that for him. But I want to see that the students have the support, the budget to have these aids that they need, to be able to create the pathways that we need, and to be able to make sure that they are ready to the best of their abilities when they leave. So I think I'm very passionate about the special education budget, to make sure we are not pushing aside the services that our special education department needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, you can sit down. Ms. Kelly?
My turn yet?
Same question, ma'am. Please explain what your budget priorities would be if you were on the board.
So, first and foremost, we have to stay fiscally solvent. If we don't stay fiscally solvent, we don't have a district. The state will take over and we lose all of our deciding making power. In addition to that, sorry, my mind just went blank because I'm nervous. Flew out of my brain. In addition to that, transparency is extremely important. Having been in a district where things were not always as transparent as they should have been, and having and other experiences through CSEA, not through CSEA, yeah, through CSEA, which is the Classified School Employees Union. I've heard about districts who will purposely put items into line items to hide the money so that they don't have to pay their employees what they deserve. There's a fine line between storing money for the future and being, prudent about having money, and then not hiding money or being untransparent. One of the things that that I know is maybe not popular with everybody, but I feel like the people who pay taxes today are paying taxes to support the education of the students of today. They're not paying to educate the students 12 years down the road when necessarily those people are not approving tax bonds or, paying as much taxes. So there's a fine line between using the funds for what it's intended now for the people who are here and planning for the future. This is why there's triggers in the state regulations. This is why there's limits on how much we can hold. And so just keeping a really good eye on that and the transparency. There are a number of things that happen during the year, budget related. We have the budget revised, we have the proposed budget in January, we have the budget revision in May, we have, our own budget, aligning it with the LCAP is important. And then we have the budget actuals that happen on a quarterly, not quarterly, but trimester basis. And then we have the unaudited actuals, and then we have the audited actuals. And each and every one of those phases is important to review the documents and make sure that things look right. You might not understand every single detail of it, but as you start studying it more, you start to recognize things that don't quite look right or that you have questions about. So with the budget, you're always learning, you're always asking questions. Luckily, we have Lisa, who is like a genius when it comes to this money. But yeah, it's always a learning experience. So for me, for budget, stay solvent, be transparent, continue to learn, review all of the documents. And then for funding, how it should be spent, that is something that is decided in the LCAP. But for me personally, I've seen buildings go from bad to worse, not necessarily in this district, but go, is my time up? Time up. They're fading me out. They're musicking me out off the stage. I'm sorry. What did I say? So fiscally solvent, transparent, reviewing all of the budgets. And then for me personally, I'm passionate about facilities. I don't want to see HVACs that are 10 years past their expected lifespan, not maybe one or two, but hundreds of them. I don't want to see roofs that haven't gotten repaired when we're maybe adding extra programs and stuff, but the building is going to collapse. So we're really good about that. Richard does a great job, but it's definitely a passion of mine that we not let the buildings fall apart while we're trying to get fancy on other stuff, right? There's got to be a balance. That's it. Do I need to stay? Is there more questions?
Yes, there's more questions. Yes, and stay. Mr. Ballin?
The question is, if a parent, guardian, or community member cornered you in a grocery store and asked for your support on a particular hot issue, how would you respond?
We talk about this. It's definitely a difficult situation. You don't want to appear rude or distant, but at the same time, you can't commit to anything. So just reminding them that I'm, one of 5 people on the board. I will definitely take their information into consideration, and it will be part of my decision making as my, for one vote, but that I'm not allowed to really discuss or commit to anything outside of a public meeting.
Okay, thank you. That, you can, now it's Ms. Salmon's turn. Same question. If a parent, guardian, or community member cornered you in the grocery store and asked for your support on a particular hot issue, how would you respond?
So I would briefly, but also respectfully, hear them out for a moment. Now, depending on what the issue is, if it's something that is being discussed at the board level, then again, I would make sure they just get involved, but also come to the meetings. We have open discussion, voice their opinions if it is a board level. Now, if it is school level or teacher, things like that, I always encourage, and even now I do it with my friends that come to me and they're like, hey, I know you're really active in the school. I have this issue and, I'm going to go to Scott. And I say, well, hold on. Did you give the teacher? So just reminding the parent of the channels that they need to take first, keeping an open door policy with the teacher, expressing their concerns, and if it's not met there, then now their school administration, the principals, giving them the opportunity to correct whatever that issue is first. And then if that does not work, then there are the next channels of maybe reaching out to Scott at that point and moving up. But giving our teachers and our staff the benefit of the doubt and opening those lines of communication so we can try to work through whatever issues as parents we are having, because sometimes the teachers don't realize or they're so overwhelmed, or the schools. So let's start where we can first and then encourage them to move up. And then
Thank you.
stay here.
And I think it is
Steve's turn.
Mr. Bruno's
Okay.
turn.
Identify a recent board decision that you felt strongly about and describe how you would balance community concerns, student needs, staff considerations, and your personal values and beliefs to determine how to vote on the issue.
So can I go back to the because if you guys are all here, you heard me last time. It is special education that lasts, with the budget cut. I feel very strongly about it, and it was just very worrisome because I don't like the feeling of kids not having aides, because I believe if the number was correct, there was somewhere in the 37, 38 aides that were, outsourced but were let go. So my concern was very strongly, how do we make sure those, I don't know if it's 38 or if some of these aides were helping more than, one student, but how are we making sure those students aren't missing out on anything? And I'm sorry, I feel like I'm losing the question. Can you tell me one more time so I can go right back to it?
Sure. Identify a recent board decision that you felt strongly about and describe how you would balance community concerns, student needs, staff considerations, and your personal values and beliefs to determine how to vote on the issue.
Okay, yes, that is a full. So I, taking not just mine out, my opinions, but thinking about how is it affecting the students as a whole, what can we do at a school level to try and alleviate some of that loss in this particular issue, and I'm so sorry, this is the first question, but also just keeping in mind what the community, these students are our community. And I think my decision would I'm a type of person, and it's outside the board, but I pray on everything. I take all the facts, I take everything, I keep everybody's, how the decision is going to affect everybody, and I just take that information and try to make the best decision possible, but our students are our first priority. So I would listen to everything that comes in, whether it be from students, parents, community, but I think whatever is going to bring the best outcome for our students is what decision I would have to make. I hope that answered. Thank you.
Same question to you. Identify a recent board decision that you felt strongly about and describe how you would balance community concerns, student needs, staff considerations, and your personal values and beliefs to determine how to vote on the issue.
So this one might not be real recent, but we did recently put into place an equity policy. We realized that we did not have an equity policy in place, and given that that's what I do during the day, it was very important to me on a personal level that we get one into place. We also were having a lot of community input, a lot of discussion at the board level, and just in the community in general that, we needed to have a policy. We quickly put one into place. It became contentious in the fact that we threw it together pretty quickly, but we also knew when we put it together that it was a starting point, right? It's a starting point, and it can be modified as we go along. So the way that I did and would make those decisions is to listen to what's happening in the community and in the society as a whole, and really just consider what's going to serve, well, I hate to repeat what she said, but what's going to serve our students the best. And we definitely did have some concerns that we were not serving all of our students well by not having an equity policy in place. And so my initial, my response to that was that we need to get one in place immediately. And so we took the best ones that we could find, and we modified them for what we needed in this community. We took into consideration what students and families and community were saying, and we did what we could to get the best policy in place as quickly as we could, knowing that it can always be improved. So I don't know if that answered the question, but it was an example.
Could you support a board decision you did not vote in favor of, and why or why not?
So I already touched on that. Yes, absolutely. If I'm 20% of this board, well, hopefully I'm 20% of this board. One trustee is 20%. And again, we're supposed to bring in different perspectives and different views. And we're supposed to also come to some compromises. Even if I was adamantly opposed to a decision that was made, I know that that was the decision made by the board, and I am part of the board, and so I would definitely support that decision. Now, would I at a later time potentially bring it back up for review with revisions, with other ideas? That's always possible, certainly. But once a decision is made, and we all support that wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Could you support a board decision you did not vote in favor of, and why or why not?
Yes. So as I stated, that when you are communicating and working together as a board, we are always going to have to compromise. And that's life, but especially here, not everyone is going to agree. But I know that we all, if I was to sit on the board, would be working in the same favor of our students, staff, and faculty. So I know that I would have to trust, even if I did not, that wasn't my original thought, I would have to trust that my board is still working for the best outcome for our district. And so, and with that trust and with working together, I would have to support it. I would support it because we are a team, and we would work together for the same outcome. Oh, thank you. And then I stay here. I got it now.
Last question, my dear.
Mm-hmm.
What questions do you have for the board to help you prepare to take on this commitment if chosen?
I don't have any specific questions, but what I would say is if I was chosen, this would be my first board other than the Oak Hill Elementary School PTA that I sit on. I would just ask that you guys would all open welcoming arms and give me the opportunity to learn and just trust that I am eager and trust that I am a go-getter and that our students and just all the families, everyone, every part of this district is something that I am ready to serve, and just bear with me as I would learn because it would be brand new, but something that I don't ever back down from is a challenge. And so learning the duties of the board of trustees would be a challenge, but I'm ready for that. So just welcoming arms and no questions other than that.
If you were to take the position or get the position, it takes a year to really feel welcomed it, or not welcomed, but at home in the position. I mean, all of us have gone through that. Just getting to know what all the rules and laws and all that verbiage is. So don't feel like you would be different.
No, thank you. Well, I will tell you, it takes a lifetime to learn how to be a parent. So I'm up for the challenge. And that's all. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Kelly? What questions do you have for the board to help you prepare to take this commitment if chosen?
I'm struggling with this question. I know I should have good questions in mind, but I really, at this point, I just don't. I mean, my questions are always on whatever the subject that's being discussed, right? Like I'm listening to the presentation, I'm reading the materials. My questions are related to what are the decisions we're making. So the question for the board is, I guess, would you be doing the same thing? And I already know the answer to that is yes, I know you are. I've worked with you guys for a long time, and I know that we're all very diligent about this role and this responsibility, and that it affects the lives of every student and every member of this community. And so I don't need to ask you that question, but that's the question that comes to mind is, would you also be doing the same thing? So, gosh, I feel like I should come up with a better question than that, but that's it.
That's a good question.
You guys know me. You know my passion. I think you have a difficult, very difficult choice in front of you, and I'm really happy to have been given the opportunity again to serve. And if I don't get selected, I'm not going to go home and cry, but I will be disappointed, and that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kelly. Okay, it was a pleasure having both of you participate in tonight's candidate interview. Your enthusiasm and engagement are truly inspiring, and we appreciate you taking the time to meet with us tonight. We have already read the interview questions, and we have already reviewed their information sheet and have listened to their questions. Is there any board discussion? Yes, Mr. Bruno.
First of all, I want to thank you both. I've been on that side of one of these interviews. It's not easy. And frankly, being on this side isn't very easy either. We have two people who have been here in the audience many times, have individually shown a commitment to this district, have very fun personalities, are very passionate, are clearly wanting to do this for the right reasons. I don't think there's a wrong choice here. And frankly, my interview scores are pretty much dead even. So just thank you both.
Mrs. Anderson, do you have any discussion?
I pretty much agree with what Steve said. There's, very close. I think the one difference, well, just that both of you have done a very good job, and I wish we had two positions, but we don't.
Thank you. Mr. Ballin, do you have any discussion?
So I concur with board members Bruno and Anderson. Thank you for your service to this district in the past, both of you. And as Trustee Bruno said, it's pretty much even. It's a very, very difficult decision. And I very much hope whoever is not selected will continue to support the district and look for new opportunities with us.
Thank you, and I agree with my fellow board members. This is a tough one.
May I make a motion?
Yes, so just a second. Is there a motion to appoint one of the two candidates as our new board member and to be named on the resolution number 21/2223? Mrs. Anderson, you want to make a motion?
I would like to motion that we appoint Adriana Salmons to the board.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, very good. Well then, let's just do a roll call vote. Trustee Bruno,
I will vote aye.
Trustee Anderson,
Aye.
Trustee Ballin,
Aye.
and Chair votes aye. And you both did a great job. Thank you. And Mrs. Kelly, you did a great job. See? She would have voted for her too. Okay, so we're going to continue with the meeting. Congratulations, Ms. Emmons. We do not have a student representative today. He is absent, so we will continue with board and superintendent reports, and we're going to start with Mr. Bruno this evening.
Okay, I've actually had a very busy month, and I think I view that as a really good thing. I feel like I'm leaving some things out, so I apologize if I do. One of the things I got to do is went to Dudley for the oral language fair, first and hopefully not last annual oral language fair, where students went up and presented poems that they had memorized. This was 4th through 6th grade students. And especially the 4th graders struggled with this, but it was so inspiring to see the way they were supporting each other and encouraging each other. And I thought all of the students did wonderfully, and so that was really awesome. And then left there and came to Center to watch the play. The play was Wolves. It was rough subject matter. It was definitely not easy. But just like, you have some movies that are fun and silly and enjoyable, and you have others that are really deep but kind of make you uncomfortable. This falls into that category. I really enjoyed it. I thought all the performers were amazing. There was one scene, it was about a girls' soccer team, like high school age soccer team, and there was one scene where the goalie just loses it. And it was done so well. The emotion was so raw. I was disturbed for a couple weeks from that one scene, and it's still getting to me now just thinking about it. Amazing play. Not a pleasant one, but very well done. And then, right after that, went to Riles for the 6th graders coming to visit. And the students at Riles were giving presentations about the different elective choices. And I thought that was such an effective way to get the kids interested in these elective choices, because they're hearing about it from their peers, not from teachers. And I just thought it was really well done, and again, another great experience. Then shortly after that, there was the top 10 dinner for the top 10 GPA students of the graduating class, and listening to their stories and the impacts that teachers have had on them and the impacts that they've had on their teachers. Just amazing. And one of the things I particularly enjoyed about that is some of the teachers that were asked to introduce these students were some of the same teachers that had major impacts on my on my children when they were at school, including Ben Klatt, who was my son's wrestling coach and introduced the geometry and construction, which was the first math class my son really did well in. Mr. Metcalf, the band teacher, who I cannot say enough good things about what he did for my daughter Elizabeth. Mr. Huey, who was incredibly influential on my daughter Bella. It is just wonderful to see other students getting the same thing that they were. And then just this past Friday, I got to do my first ever site visits, and definitely will not be my last. It was absolutely wonderful. I got to visit Dudley and Oak Hill. And some of the things that I saw that really impressed me, first of all, Mr. Holmesley knows the names of almost all students at his school on site. I can barely remember the names of the board. So Trustee Ballin and I were both really impressed by that. But the other thing that really struck me on that site visit was the way they addressed some behavioral issues that they had, not by coming down on the students, not by lecturing the students, but by adapting the environment to meet the student needs. For instance, they had students that were riding their bikes between buildings. And rather than having them get sent to the office and then having to deal with them, they moved the bike rack and the problem went away. They had a student who kind of was in a habit of trying to leave the premises. So they introduced a walking club where the student can get their energy out in the morning and then actually pay attention in class. And this is a creative way to meet student needs. And I absolutely loved it. And my favorite moment, though, was as he was taking us on the tour, he told one of the other staff members, that student over there, he knew the student's name, is having a rough day. Why don't we have him join the walking club this morning and see if we can turn it around? So a student's having a rough day, and rather than coming down on him, you're compassionately finding a way to redirect it and try to make his day a good one after all. That really struck me. And then at Oak Hill, as we were being taken around, I noticed the number of students that came running up to give Miss Oliver hugs, which really says something about how safe they feel in that environment and how they view the administration. The other thing at both schools that I really enjoyed is looking at the history of staff members. We have staff members who used to be students, whose parents were staff members. There's a lot of people who served as teachers and then vice principal, and are now in the district office. It really brings to mind what a tight-knit community Antelope is and what a tight-knit district center is. And then my favorite part of the tour of Oak Hill, we were just popping into classes, trying to be, trying to kind of be in the background so we don't disturb the classes. But one of the teachers called us back in as we were getting ready to leave because the students were doing a unit on electoral college. And since we were elected representatives, she wanted to talk to her students about us and actually let the students ask questions. And they asked really good questions. And I just, it was second grade. I was thinking it was fourth. So it was absolutely wonderful. I liked being put on the spot, frankly. And again, it's a reminder of these students are why we're here. Some people may not appreciate the value of a site visit, but having done one, I really value it, and I'm looking forward to doing some more on Friday. And the other thing got going on, haven't done it yet, but we've got the Purple Core dinner for the students who are accepted to 4 universities tomorrow. And again, I get to be inspired by the students of this district, and I think it's wonderful, and I'm really appreciative that I get to be a board member. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Mrs. Anderson?
I was able to attend Field Day at Oak Hill, and it was done very, very well. Congratulations, since a lot of you are here tonight. Very well attended. The kids had a ball, and the vendors were great. I talked to a couple of them for some time, and they were really good people. Did a great job. I also went to the play. It was a great play. The kids did okay. I fail to see why we have to use a play that has so many 4-letter words in it. These are high school kids. Why do we have to not ask them, but why do they have to use 4-letter words every other time they say a word in a play? I just don't understand it. It doesn't add anything to the play, in my opinion. The Top 10 dinner was wonderful. Good food, good people, the kids. It's always very emotional. It's one of my favorite events. The stories behind everything that goes on with those kids and how they get to where they're at, and the Top 10 dinner is amazing sometimes. It's one of the times that you really do take pride in what we do as a district and what those kids are able to accomplish. other than that, it's been a great month. I'm looking forward to some great weather and the festivities of the end of the season and graduations and all the fun stuff.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Mr. Ballin.
Forgot the button again. I might get it by the next meeting. Thank you, President Pope. So I think as Trustee Bruno, this last month may have been one of my busiest months since taking office, even with the school break. So with that said, first, I hope all the teachers, staff, and students had a wonderful and relaxing break. So this time around, I had the opportunity to attend a number of events and tour a couple of schools. On March 23rd, I too attended the Dudley Elementary Oral Language Fair Poetry Recital. I was very impressed with the students' delivery and their poise in their presentations, and I thank Delane Mathis for her invitation to participate in this wonderful event as a judge. You know, we got to judge the students in there, and you know, I forgot, what was it, first, second, and third place? Was how it worked, I believe? Yeah, so it was a fun time. And also on March 23rd, I too attended the CHS Spring Drama Theater play production, The Wolves. Very interesting play, I must say, and I can see all those that were involved in this production were fully committed to their roles. And I commend drama teacher Doug Huey on providing the students the opportunity to showcase this production. On March 24th, I attended Wilson Riles Junior High for the district's 6th grade class greeting and introduction. It was very informational, and I know that the 6th graders had a great time, you could tell. There was so much school spirit in the air, it really was, and I know all the 6th graders going to Riles will do very well this coming year. On March 24th, I met with Superintendent Lair, Board Member Anderson, and Superintendent Secretary Hunt at the district office to prepare for this evening's board member interview process. We reviewed applications and selected questions to be asked for interviews and discussed the process that was going to take place. On March 25th, I, along with Superintendent Lair and Board Member Anderson, attended the memorial services of former Center Unified School District Superintendent Rex Fortune at the Rex and Margaret Fortune Education Complex in Elk Grove. It was a very nice service, and I was glad to be there for the family as an elected representative of this district. Dr. Fortune gave so much to this district, and it was a privilege to honor him by attending this service. On March 28th, I attended the Center High School Top 10 dinner along with the rest of the board at the Legion's restaurant at the Wood Creek Golf Course in Roseville. I was amazed at the accomplishment these young men and women have achieved while under the guidance of this district's many exceptional teachers. They are representative of the achievement level that can be attained by all students in our district. Again, as Mr. Bruno spoke to when he gave his report, I had the opportunity to tour a couple of schools. We toured them together. It was on April 14th, Dudley and Oak Hill Elementary, along with Superintendent Lair. And I'd like to thank Principals Brett Holmsley and Vice Principal Melissa Oliver for their hospitality and generous time afforded us to show us their schools, programs, and students. As always, it's great to know what is happening in our schools and meeting the students, teachers, and staff. So, unfortunately, on a negative note, I am again bringing up the issue around safety and security of our campuses and our students. As many of you are aware, I ran for this board seat on a platform that included security and safety, and I want to be sure that we in the district are doing all what is needed to ensure the safety and security of all our students, teachers, and staff. I bring this up only as a reminder that we must all be diligent in assessing our surroundings at all times And if we see something, say something, if you're familiar with that program. I bring this up because sadly, in just the last month, there were deaths of several children. This is a tragedy that we must be sure we harden ourselves against and make sure we are doing what we can to safeguard everyone concerned in the district. I sit here before you this evening with the promise that I will work to make sure the district will keep all as safe as can be and do everything possible to keep it that way. Anything I personally can do to ensure that this occurs, know that I will be at the forefront of any efforts to do so. And lastly, I want to congratulate Adriana Salmons for being selected to the board. Oh, there she is. I applaud you for the important commitment you've made to this district and our community and wish you every success. In conclusion, I want to be sure that all that watch this board meeting, live or recorded, know that you are more than welcome to come here and attend this meeting in person. Your presence will always be appreciated, and anything you may choose to present will always be welcome. Also, please know that we appreciate any comments on any of the district's social media platforms as well, such as YouTube, Facebook, etc. Additionally, you may reach any board member or the superintendent via email, which you may obtain on the district's website. Remember, it's you, the parents and guardians of our students, that have the strongest voice in how your children are educated. This completes my report for April 2023. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ballin. Superintendent Lair.
Saving yourself for last, huh? Caught me off guard. Well, my report here is going to be a little all over the place because it is the end of the year, and that's what we do right now at the end of the year. So I have two public service announcements that I said I'd do. Miss Jenkins handed me a flyer. She had to leave for the evening, but she was going to share that Dudley PTO is holding a family fun night on June 3rd. And so they're trying to get as many folks to be a part of that, other schools as well. So more information to come on that event. Secondly, I said I would be Mr. Riley Mason's proxy. And just let the board know and somewhere addressed, tomorrow is Purple Cord dinner. I'm hoping people can make that. I know one of you cannot, but it sounds like others might make it. So Miss Anderson, we're hoping you'd be able to join us too. On May 5th is the Sportsorama for Center High School. It's a fun event. If you have an opportunity to attend, it's a riot. The kids love it. Dance and band concerts are coming up. We also have the Moving Up Rally on May 18th at Center High. Moving Up Rally, for those that aren't familiar, is the seniors give up their spot in the gymnasium for where they sit for rallies, and the juniors move over, sophomores take theirs, freshmen take theirs, and then we have the 8th graders there that take their spot in the freshman spot, and it's pretty loud usually. So anyway, so I wanted to make sure that we got those on for Mr. Mason because he could not join us. I also want to take a moment and thank Kelly for her efforts tonight, and it's great seeing her. And I do know, I've known Kelly a long time. I know she's not going anywhere. She'll continue to support our district. And then I welcome Ms. Salmons to the board. Hope you know what you're in for. No, just kidding. But yeah, procedurally, I'll reach out to you too in case I don't catch you at the meeting so we can connect. But we'll officially swear Ms. Salmons in at our May meeting. So you might want to bring your fan club with you because I'm kind of geeky that way. I think it's kind of special. So we'll make sure that we do that, and we'll move forward from that. Also acknowledging a lot of remodeling has been done in the business office, and I want to acknowledge maintenance and operations, grounds, and even warehouse for their continued efforts to make it look incredible. I'm shocked, awed, and cannot believe the talent that some of our staff members have. And it went from me kind of joking around like we should move a wall to the actual wall actually moving. So anyway, Lisa's not gonna let me give my input on anything anymore, but I appreciate the work that everyone's doing to make it happen. It's gonna be a nice way to receive our families and give a little more privacy and dignity for that office. Acknowledging Mr. Barassi and Ms. Severett again, I think Again, I'm probably a geek, but I think it's a big deal when we get promoted and we promote people from within. So I welcome you both to your roles. I know you'll be very successful in those roles, and we are here to support each of you in those new roles. So we're all there. Additionally, as the board has remembered, we engaged with West Ed for our diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And we have wrapped that up for this year and are looking to come back for our second year of that. So more to come on that. And I think May will have the next segment of that work. And then finally, the board action tonight to name the facility after Mr. Ray Bender. I think it's important that we note, while he wasn't here to acknowledge the honor that he received, Mrs. Linda Bender is here, and she keeps hiding every time I look. I see her back there. But I can tell she's proud. I know Ray would be very proud, and I know the family is very honored for this recognition. And we will make sure that you know well in advance before we get anything planned, and we will make sure that you and your family are available for it. So you'll be our number one priority. The rest of us will bend around you. But I So I wanted to acknowledge Mrs. Bender being here to hear that. I think that's a special thing. And it goes back to the point, Mr. Ballin, you brought up with recognition. And this is what we're all about in this district, is recognizing and supporting each other. And I think that's another example of how we're honoring folks as for their legacy. So with that, I'm looking forward to the end of the year. Graduation's right around the corner. And then that little thing called summer break's right in there somewhere. So anyway, thank you. And I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Lair. I would like to say, Kelly, it was an honor to have you here tonight, and thank you for participating, and congratulations to you, Ms. Ammons. And I reiterate what Mr. Lair said, congratulations for the recognition for Mr. Bender. As he said, we'll let you know the festivities. I'm not going to talk too much about the activities that I attended because it was pretty much everything. Well, Mr. Bruno's pretty much his board report, but I do have a couple additions to add to that. A few weeks ago, there was a shooting in Roseville at Mahaney Park off of Pleasant Grove and Wood Creek. Two individuals that were once students of our district and graduated from Center High School currently serve as supervisors. Oh, no, I see your face, Ms. Bowler. Did I scare you? Because somebody said you should not start your board report like that because it sounds like something happened. So I'm sorry if I freaked you out. But these two students were supervisors at the pools of Roseville, and they were at the aquatic center at the time of lockdown, and they are employed by the city of Roseville. Both of them happened to be present there when the lockdown did happen at the facility. According to their mother, they expressed feeling very well prepared to handle the situation due to the past experiences with the lockdown drills that they experienced here at the district. So I would like to thank everybody for taking these safety drills seriously and to continue to do them. I want to thank Mr. Barassi for continuing with the safety meetings and all of them, that's the safety team that's present. Practice. As we just heard, they're very effective. So the mother wanted me to kind of, or ask the mother if we could share that information with you. On another note, I would like to share some information provided by Mrs. Tammy Jabali. I would like to announce that 19% of Center High School students have attended peer tutoring at least once this semester. Peer tutoring is funded by an A2G grant, and the program is run by the Student and Family Support Services Department. It is held in the Learning Lounge right here in the annex. This is a model from the EL Homework Help program that we ran several years at all four elementary schools. In December, they hired the tutors and three of their counselors. It was Abby, Sarah, and Julia that did the tutorings for the tutors, did the tutoring for the tutors. The program was launched in mid-January. It is so nice to have our students utilizing the resources that we have, especially now when it's finals time. So thank you everybody that's involved. That is my board report, nice and short, and that is unusual for me. So we're going to go to advanced planning, future date, May 17th, right here at the district annex at 6 o'clock. Is there any suggested or suggested agenda items?
Not necessarily for the next board meeting, but for not too distant in the future. I would like to discuss the possibility, when it's time to run for school board, one of the options is the district can pay for the candidates' statements in the handbooks. I'm not phrasing this well, but and I would like to have a discussion about, is the cost to the district worth the fact that that could get us more candidates to run for the seats? So, I mean, frankly, I don't have an opinion on this, but I would like to have the discussion at some point. And I figure since we're far away from campaign season, it's probably the best time to have that discussion.
Okay, thank you very much.
So just to interject real quick, just make sure that everything's on the up and up. We don't go too far down the road. You know, there's the election laws. I don't know if that would be, if that's within the.
So there is some education code that allows for it. So we could there's a policy that we have that we can determine which route we want to go. So we could, when that time comes, we could bring the policy forward. But we would certainly want to vet to make sure that we don't go too far one way. But there is language in there that talks about the district covering the cost of the candidate statement, because that's really the only fee you pay. Right. So I think that would be, I think what Mr. Bruno is putting forward is the discussion around that. So those are all points you guys would want to discuss with that. I'm getting this thing down too, Mr. Vallon. Finally get my thumb in there. One of the things just to put in the back of your heads is, now that we have appointed a new member, the member would join us officially at our May meeting, be sworn in. And then I think it would be good for us to sit down either as a workshop or like an after work June meeting where we go over the Brown Act. I can ask our legal to come in and give an overview of that, I think, as a team, and then dust off our governance handbook and see if we can revamp that. I think we got fairly far, but with an almost 2/5 new, it'd be nice to get new input on that document to see where this board wants to go. Because it'd be nice to have a handbook when new members come on, so they would know, hey, what am I getting into? So I think that would be something. Just to put it back in your minds, come May, I'll probably ask you more specifically, let's pick a date. And we could do like a Saturday morning like we've done before, or pick a 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock, whatever works, but just think that through.
Okay, very good. We will not continue in closed session. The board is adjourned at 9:05.